Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're finally back here with the AVGL Smite Collegiate Championships. My name is J Mac Tucker. With me, Fuzzy. Ready, guys? Carleton Ravens versus Georgia State University, the first semifinal match of the playoffs.
And just out of the gate, they've already banned Geb, making sure that Georgia State doesn't get that Geb. It was very potent, obviously, with the Cataclysm being able to be a huge team fight. And again, another team fight ultimate, and no one really being super, I guess, surprised by this ban as the ISIS ban with the Circle of Protections.
And on top of that, Persephone, a very standard ban that we see. Normally, we don't see it as a first pick ban. Typically, we see that in the second ban, the second pick slot, that they would take that one away. Maybe a little interesting. I guess Carleton really not wanting to pick up that Persephone, though. I'm not really sure we've seen a lot of these mid laners really practice in this god as of right now.
Persephone has a very high skill ceiling, I guess it would be, and a very high skill floor. Very difficult to master, especially with the plants that you have to utilize, because those plants have 3 different stages. So they have the exploding phase, they have the healing phase, and then of course they have the evil plant demonic Audrey 2 thing running at you and trying to kill you. As the Freya ban is reverted Freya, obviously, being really very potent right now. No one wants to have that deal with, because once Freya hits like level 12, 13 with a 1 ring and possibly a penetration item online, she's just too big to handle.
It's kind of back to the days of old Freya, where it was, I've got my 3 core items online, let's start swinging. Old school Freya, and it's the Freya that honestly, it's the Freya I love, but I know is very frustrating to kind of sometimes play against, so not wanting to give that one up. Instead, it's going to be the Achilles. We saw this god a lot at HRX played, mostly by Belair, I believe, was the player who was piloting this god game after game, and we're finally going to be seeing him here on the side of Carleton.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Jormungandr pickup, because Achilles usually plays really well into a Jormungandr, so Georgia State must have a plan to stop this Achilles from snowballing. As you said, Belair played a lot of Achilles in that World Championship to help SK kind of just guide them into the actual run of winning the World Championship. So Achilles is very strong, especially with that Fatal Strike being able to take about, once a god is able to get down to that execution threshold, just taking someone out when they still have 20% health is absolutely insane. But also taking out someone that's at 20% health with 1 ability is Merlin being locked in for Georgia State.
Yorm also could be going over to Basically. Now, I know that Basically over on Georgia State does like to play very aggressive supports. Now, while Yorm himself isn't necessarily the ideal support, it fits right into Basically's playstyle. We've seen some of the more defensive and semi-aggro styles like Geb and Ganesh, but the Yorm, Ares, Fenrir, these are all gods that do fit within his range as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see if that Yorm does go that way, but there's still options available to it to see which side he goes. Jingwei Kumakarn on the opposite side for Carleton, something to kind of shut down this Merlin and something safe for them as well. Jingwei, we've seen a lot of play for this god.
Jingwei is not only the safe god, but once she hits level 7, she becomes the snowball. I'm going to carry the game god, especially when you get the 2 points into that second ability where the crit chance goes from 0% to 5% with no crit items. It can become very, very powerful. And with the Kumba, obviously the overhead smash into the persistent gust is going to be absolutely disgusting combo between the 2 of them in the early game. So there could be some early picks right now for Carleton to into that dual lane, as the Hunbats, a very big, very good team fight ultimate, is going to be locked in for Georgia State.
Hunbats, we saw this play during, as of recent times here in this Hunbats, we know is a very potent pick. We saw a few of them picked up by Sam for soccer. Really got to show his stuff here, so no surprise seeing Georgia State pick this one up and fit that into the roster, giving a lot of setup for Merlin and a lot of control in the midst of the team fight. And into the ban phase, we see Set and Poseidon. A little bit more targeted style bans. We don't see Set very often picked up anymore, not even really looked at, so this must be more of a research targeted ban than anything else.
And I think because of Set being, like you kind of said, basically is able to play that Jormungandr into that support lane, you know, the Set could possibly flex into that solo. So I think they're really trying to make sure that everything is accounted for. They don't want to be thrown off by a Set solo, as a Jormungandr is going to be played into the support lane, as a Horus is going to go ahead and be locked in for Georgia State, and I think basically is going to be taking the Horus.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be going Basically's way now. We haven't seen Horus very much in the collegiate scene. He's kind of been a very sleeper god more than anything else. Not very often looked at, not very often banned away or anything like that. But picking that one up, very likely now going to be in his hands. As we look at the rest of the bans, the Fafnir and the Thoth were taken away as well. No surprise, two great and powerful and potent gods. When you have that Jingwei, there's still option for you to get something like a magical hunter, or you can go a double hunter if you so wish to. But I don't think we'd see double hunter now that there are 3 main physicals. Could still see it, but I think leaving the Kuma Carnage or soul magic damage just isn't the right call, as we see the Susanoo locked in for Carleton.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thoth and Poseidon are both very bursty mages, and Thoth really brings out that range when it comes into that ultimate. When it comes to Final Judgment, as Hell being locked in, you wanted some bursty magic damage right there, and Hell has been played a lot recently, especially in the Worlds. So I think that Hell pick is going to be very bursty, but they are going to have to play a little bit safer, Carleton, because if that Hell gets attacked on very quickly, it could be game over.
Not typically a god that I see in Digtux's wheelhouse, the mid laner for Carleton. Not something I would have imagined him picking up this time around, but there's always option for surprises. It has been a while since we've seen these guys come back up onto the screen, and maybe he's had this sleeper pocket pick on the side of Carleton. With Georgia State, their final god locked in is going to be the On Her to round out their draft. Still has flexibility, could go mid, could go hunter, just depends on which lane they want to throw it in.
Yeah, and I think the On Her's a really good pickup right there, specifically because of the passive that he has. The more auto attacks he's able to hit, the more protections are able to be shred. Now, it is very small, but it is a very boxing potential, as it is going to be in that dual lane side right there, going up against Digtux into that Jingwei. So seeing that, I'm looking at possibly an early pick right now for Georgia State, because I think Strongest War God is going to be able to not only outbox, Strongest War is going to be taking that into the mid, it looks like. So that is going to be a Merlin into that dual lane. So now it's going to be a little bit interesting. I think the On Her's definitely going to be able to beat Lime Time into that Hell.
I did forget that Carleton had a little bit of a role swapping around as of their last time. Digtux, the previous mid laner for Carleton, but now with Lime Time moving into the mid lane, Fixtrion taking over his position in solo. That puts Tornby also out of his original role. Tornby was formerly the carry for Carleton. Blinking from basically under the back. He's not going to be able to steal the speed buff, but he's going to put a little bit of poke in onto David and continue to chase through, as we've seen time and time. Or so I thought he was going to chase, but instead he might look to steal these back camps.
And that's kind of what needs to happen right now, as it does look like that David's just going to go ahead and try to split that mid wave, then look to invade on the red buff, which is exactly what's happening right now. But the Merlin is going to be able to counter this, and I think Avant-Garde is going to be there as well, so this could be a really massive team fight.
Well, the Dragon's Fire is down. The red buff will be secured by the top side, so Zuo is going to make sure to pick that one up for himself. But David's so low, with only the jet stream, he's able to sneak it past. Transformation into the ice stance out of Zuo. The speed buff is good. Torpy comes in with a blink. The Sacred Monkey Bounce doesn't go where they want. David gets poked out by basically, but it's just not enough damage. And David, somehow through thick and thin, makes it out alive.
And those were just nuggets. That's literally that ruler line that's right there. And it is just literally maybe 2 or 3 units off every single ability. But I think what really played poorly right there was the fact that Avant-Garde, when used his monkey, and once it bounced to a minion, he actually teleported to the minion and not to David right there. And so that really cost him the first blood right there. But Carleton's able to go ahead and start regrouping themselves. Those back camps are still up. So, David could still be even right now with Avant-Garde.
With the near first blood coming through, but not quite. Puts a little bit of advantage towards Georgia State, a couple hundred gold in their favor to start things out. Nothing major, but because David was unable to really get any kind of farm there, unable to steal the red buff and unable to do anything in his jungle, it put him just a little bit behind Avant. We've seen what Avant can do with a lead, especially on a god like Hunbots. Hitting that level 5 first is so crucial for the monkey.
It is very crucial because Avant-Garde, and especially for Hunbots, when you hit level 5, you become just a team fight ulting bot. Once you throw that in, that is the team's go in and initiate on everybody. And if you're able to be ahead right now, especially with Susanoo, who has one of those other big level 5 ultimates that can really just devastate a team, if you're ahead, you can win these team fights very easily. And once team fights start being won in one way or the other, that snowball starts to happen and things start to slow down for the other side.
David coming over, unleashing a little bit of experience from Fixtrion as he gets ready to drop for that blue, but Don Gavius isn't going to let that blue buff go for free, and Torby's not going to let this red buff go over to Georgia State for free either. The blue will be dropped. But Torby trying to stop that one. A great dash in from basically will stun Torby. And the updraft will make sure that he can't get in to the red buff. Going to go around Strongest War God's waist on the side of Georgia State.
Yeah, and look at this rotation right now coming from AVGL. It looks like that he might just go for the purple buff, but he looked like he was going to try to possibly leap over the wall, try to get Digtux out of position a little bit, as it looks like this might be happening right now. AVGL's going to go ahead and go in, and it looks like just missing on the monkey, but Blue's going to come up. Persistent Gus is going to be there and just getting away Digtux. Jingwei, you said it was a safe god, and there it is, safe god.
Hitting that Sacred Monkey would have been the deciding factor of getting that kill or not, because of the miss. Avant comes up empty-handed. Didn't even get a relic or anything. Out to the blinking from Torby onto Zuo. Zuo's not worried. There's no major follow-up, no big ultimate to jump off top of anything, really. It's because of that. Just a blink expended by Torby to try and get something, but gets nothing off of it, basically, with the updraft. Gonna knock up Lime Time, put a little bit of poke. Dashing back to his teammate to give him a little bit of health. But Lime Time returns the favor with a little bit of damage of his own.
Yeah, and right now it looks like the Georgia State have a little bit of advantage when it comes to the relic side of it, especially using that Kuma Blink. Now that basically Blink is back up, he could look to aggress a little bit more with the updraft, the Blink, the stun out of the dash out of it, and he's got a lot of escapes as Horus, being able to dash to an ally or even a minion to heal them. So I think this could be a very early aggression right now onto Lime Time with basically having that relic available.
Surprisingly, David, the first one to hit level 5 amongst two junglers, despite his early falter. Not necessarily a death or anything, but he did fall behind early compared to Avant. But because Avant wasted so much time in that left lane and got nothing off of it. Level 5 comes through. The Blink Fracture in from basically, as well as the updraft. It's going to be beats out by Lime Time. He's going to get us enough damage, enough healing off to get themselves back to safety. Lime Time will make it out. I believe only the purification needs expended. And the Typhoon from David's going to catch out Avant on a greedy attempt for the red buff. First blood goes to Carleton.
And David right there being very heads up. Remember what I said, that Susanoo ultimates are very disruptive. And not only was he able to disrupt the entire Georgia State team, he was able to pick up the kills on AVGL, and that is huge, especially as you were talking about with him being so far behind at the very beginning of this. As Digtux looks like he's going to aggress right now, Susanoo is going to go ahead and dash in. Nothing's really going to come of it though, but oh wait, hold on now. David's actually a little out of position right here, as the Sacred Monkey's going to give it, an AVGL is going to return the favor and say, you kill me, I kill you.
Avant getting that return trade out. Big for Georgia State to make sure they can keep David down. Most importantly, catching the level 5 off of it. Now with the beads down from this hell, they can make a very aggressive play in here. They do still have about 50 seconds or so until their blink is back up, and that's when Avant can make a very high pressure maneuver to kill this hell. But he's going to need a little bit of assistance. He's not going to be able to kill the hell on his own, especially with Torby lying in the wings.
Yeah, but you also have to realize that hell has a good cleanse. If Lime Time's going to be able to get that cleanse off very quickly, everything that's going to happen to hell is gone. So right now, really basically has to make sure that the cleanse is going to be able to be stopped before he's able to actually engage.
That was a beautiful mez out by Torby, stopping the fracture from basically right in its tracks. I'm not sure if he got the cooldown off of it or not. I think he was just in the fire-up animation of it. So I'm not sure if it actually put that ability on cooldown for him. But a great catch nonetheless to make sure that he got to stay safe as well as his mid laner. And catching this hell out is going to mean waiting until they're in dark stance, because they're not going to be able to switch to light stance in time to get over for the immunity, just like so. The knock him in from basically is good to set it up. Torby's going to get the epic uppercut. He's going to do a little bit of damage to basically an Avant. But that's the perfect time to catch the hell out when they're in that dark stance. They can't cleanse in that mode, and it's too long of a cooldown and a swap over to get that.
Yeah, that animation could be very devastating if you're caught out of position right now. And speaking of being caught out of position, it does look like a rotation's going to be coming in from Georgia State onto Digtux, but Digtux looks like he realized it because they walked over a ward, so he's going to play a little bit safe under this tier 2. They could possibly look for a Gold Fury, but I think they're going to try to see if they can get Lime Time one more time before they go for that gold.
The one thing that's dangerous for me here on the side of Carleton is the fact that they're not paying enough attention over to Zuo on this Merlin. We saw that Paul at Worlds was able to make a massive run with this Merlin, and him being left unchecked in this lane, staying even, a blinking from Torby. the Mez as well. Gonna use the belly bump to get some damage, but a good fracture out of basically will stun him out. The root is not going to connect. The Typhoon expended. The Sacred Monkey is going to bounce all the way back to the Gold Fury, and he's going to use that to get away and get out of the middle of all of them. Strongest War God, however, is not going to find his way out as David cleans him up with a couple more basics. Jump over the wall. Avant's going to get away from one, but not away from the other with no mana. The belly bump's not going to land, but the epic uppercut will be more than enough damage to take out the jungler.
What a great play as it still continues right now. It looks like that Lime Time's going to try to go onto the Merlin, but it does look like they're just going to disengage right now, basically realizing that he needs to be around for this Gold Fury, but they are just going to go ahead and grab the Oracles. What a great fight from Carleton right there. And what even better play from AVGL right there, trying to use the Gold Fury to escape, but unfortunately he just ran into a brick wall when it came around to the corner, seeing a Kumba and seeing a Hell, and then just getting epic uppercutted out of the fight and into the gray screen when he died.
Not just that, he was a little bit too low on mana after his last jump over the wall. Fracture is going to get the beads out of Lime Time. Jump in from Strongest War God. He's not going to land with the Impale. Storm is going to get the Mez, basically charging up across the skies. For now, he's just going to get himself backwards, give himself a shield more than anything else. A little bit more damage is necessary. The jump is not quite enough damage. Avant can't find it. With the last basic, a great root from Tornby will save the life of their jungler. Quite a few relics expended in that fight on the side of Carleton.
And that right there, Kumba is able to peel everybody. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Kumba has a lot of CC abilities, right? He's got a slow in his belly bump. He's got a Mez that if a god does any damage to the Mez god, obviously they're going to wake up, but that Mez can last about 2.5 to 3 seconds, depending on your CCR reduction, your cooldown reduction, or your crowd control reduction. Pardon me. And then on top of that, he's got the overhead smash, and then the epic uppercut. That's a lot of CC, and Torn is just going to make sure that everybody realizes how much CC is happening.
Typhoon expended onto Don Gavius, but he's got the World Serpent own. Pop out some damage. To knock himself zone, put out quite a bit of damage towards them. He used the last shot just to go right back on and fix.
He actually stole the blue buff.
Not gonna be able to keep going in onto that. Strongest, meanwhile, able to find a kill onto Lime Time in the middle of the back camps. Tornby gonna get put a little bit of poke onto him by Don Gavius, and a ward, very aggressive ward, placed by that speed buff to make sure to keep the timer on it.
And that's exactly what basically he's known for. He's known for these aggressive playstyles and these aggressive wards. Whenever he's able to get into this position of making sure that his team is ahead, he's going to make sure that the team stays ahead, as he probably called that goal, that Primal Fury, and now Georgia State is up by about 2,000 gold.
Battle for the Totem of Coup. Tale as old as time itself. It looks like Fixtrion might win this one out. And who got that? It looks like Georgia State actually pulled out on top with that one. Don Gavius able to sneak it out under him. The epic battles of the Totem of Coup.
The Totem of Coup, everybody's favorite one. That Venomous Haze is what actually was able to secure it, along with the auto attacks from the Jormungandr, making sure everything's good. But the Sacred Monkey's going to come out, but not going to be aggressed on. I think that's a great call from AVGL, making sure that, no one was around with him, and that would have been a 2v1 situation that would have ended up very badly.
I like the quick response out of Georgia State on anti-heal. First item picked up after the boots from Avant is that Brawler's Beat Stick, and I imagine Zool will be likely going into a very early Divine Ruin, maybe first or maybe after Asura the Magus, depending on which route he wants to take, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that prioritized with that magic focus early. Yeah,
I definitely think the Divine Ruin third is going to be great here, especially with that Pythax piece, making sure that the cooldown's good. So that 10% cooldown reduction from the Pythax piece and the 10% cooldown from the cooldown boots is going to be very helpful. Not only that, but the 12% magical lifesteal coming out from that, and then the aura being able to give 12% lifesteal to everybody on the team. It's a great pickup, so I definitely think that's going to go into that Divine Ruin to stop the healing from the Hell, and to stop the life steal from Jingwei with that Devourer's Gauntlet. It's already up at 40 stacks.
Don at it again, but not able to steal the blue away this time. Fixtrion will be able to grab the buff for himself. Again, more aggressive plays by this red buff. It's been a namesake for Georgia State coming here and trying to keep this red buff in their control. Strongest War Gods hit level 11 off the mid-Harpy camps there. We'll now go back to the wave just to get a little bit more experience for themselves as the 3v3 meets up in the mid lane.
This is the Joust lane back all over again, folks, but it does look like there might be a little bit of aggression. It does look like that Georgia State wants to fight right here. Persistent Gust is going to be used to try to possibly disengage, but it still looks like that this might be a big fight.
Did look like the Sacred Monkey animation was thrown. Tormby goes into the back lane with the epic uppercut and the Typhoon just off the mark. Avant able to jump away and avoid the majority of the damage. Pinned into the wall is Fixturion as well with the Fear No Evil. Keeping it back, but he's so tanky at the moment. He's finally falling down. Just too much damage out of Strongest with the passive. Out of that on her, giving a much needed penetration. And line time with no chance. CC to death. He will fall to Avant.
As the fight still goes on in the back right now, as David's going to be able to get Avant-Gate in the back, as he's still trying to run for his life, but the impale from Strongest War God, making sure that he doesn't go anywhere. Dig Tux is still around. Basically, he's going to look for Dig Tux right now, possibly making sure that he gets that Fracture online. And you said CC to death. This is what they're going to look for, but the Gold Fury was pinged. So basically, you just try to look to zone out big Dig Tux right now to make sure that the ultimate doesn't break through that line and get that Gold Fury for Carleton Ravens.
They do still have Tormby making a rotation through. It's just John Gavious and Strongest War God. The Groggy Strike will be good on the War God. Dragonfire comes through. Georgia State does secure the Gold Fury, and thanks to the power of Jormungandr, Kubakaran stands absolutely no chance in his passive state. He will fall immediately with the power of the World Serpent. Airstrike expended very early out of Dig Tux as he goes under the tower. The Dragon's Fire and the Fire's Flame Strike going through, just doing too much damage to Dig Tux. Zul will get it with the Icicle Strike out of the Merlin. Another big kill for Georgia State, and a Tier 1 tower to follow up after the Gold Fury.
And this is exactly what Georgia State needed to do. They needed to pick a good fight that they were able to win and start snowballing this. This fight all started from that Pyromancer that they secured in that big team fight over the blue buff a few minutes ago. Then it just kind of carried over into this Gold Fury, into the Tier 1 tower and left, and that's kind of how this all started off. As Desert Fury's going to be used as well as the Fear No Evil Avant-Gate picking up David, and now Lime Time's in a really bad position.
Even using his Purification Beads is not enough. The ultimate out of basically will get the team back into position to take down Lime Time. Tormby, the last one standing amongst them. 5 players strong in his face. The updraft is good to slow him down, basically getting the last shot of it, thanks to the second half of the airstrike. They will drop another one down. Now Fixturion has made the rotation through, trying to get something, but he's going to get impaled straight against the wall, right by Strongest War God. Not able to continue the chase forward, looking towards basically, but with that heal, basically able to get to the safety of the minions and say the safety of their tower.
What a great fight. A very slow rotation from Fixturion right there. But what he was trying to do was trying to get into that back line, possibly get out the ability that was able to stun them and try to get that stun going on, and then get a couple of combat dodges on so that Fatal Strike could start going off and just get that combo, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pentakill combo, I think is what he was trying to line up right there. But Fixturion was able to get that Tier 1 over on the solo side. So now things are a little bit easier for Carleton to try to grasp on. They are clinging on their fingernails right now, but that gold lead is pretty substantial at right around 6K.
We're seeing a bit of the Paul build coming out here on Lime Time with this held going towards the Breastplate of Valor. Likely we'll see a Rod of Asclepius next. I think that's the 4th item that Paul usually goes on this hell mid. And Paul, one of the few players in the professional league and one of the few players in general who still play this hell at a very high level. The Blade Fracture in. Gonna get some good damage onto Lime Time. They need one more hit, and Zuo will find it with the Eclipse. Able to grab it all the way into the back. They'll grab David all the meantime. Tormy's gonna get yanked back in and dropped back down. Strongest War God getting the final hit. Mid-tier 1 stands no chance as Dig Tux split pushes on that left side.
And as they're continuing to push down this Tier 2 right now, I have to give props to Strongest War God right there. He threw the pillar up right where Hell was trying to run, and Hell couldn't move anymore. They're going to continue down to this Phoenix, push the Phoenix, probably then look to back off and go towards that Pyromancer side as the blink in from Fixtron's going to come in, mixing everything as Fixtron's just going to get blown up by Strongest War God and the flames. The Fighting Phoenix is gone, folks, as Jingwei is going to continue to push up to get that Tier 2. Now they can start looking over towards this Fire Giant side, and I think that's what they need to do.
And that's what a Hoonbots is capable of doing. When you have that Fear No Evil available, doesn't matter how powerful your Achilles is, if he can't move, can't get those combat dodges, and can't get that execute off in time with the Fatal Strike, he is just a sitting duck inside that giant circle, and Avant makes quick work of them. 15th kill on the board for GSU, and a mid-Phoenix down in only 17.5 minutes. GSU trying to make quick work of this Carleton team.
and they could go a little bit faster if they wanted to. They're still Carleton's looking a little bit like they're trying to cling on to something. They're trying to aggress too much right now. They just need to play a little bit safer, play a little bit on the back foot, and say, okay, what can we do right now to strip farm somewhere? Whether that be freeze the waves in the left, freeze the waves in the right, try to find the farm together, or farm together in these lanes. They can't really contest this fire giant, and I don't think they should, because it is just regular fire giant. I think what they need to do is give away and concede those tier 2 towers on either side and try to defend that Phoenix line as much as possible to try to cling themselves back up to this, because they have a Hell. Hell is a very late game character. Get that Hell to late game, you could possibly pull this game out.
The only problem is by opting into this Paul style build with the Hell, you're not going to be having a lot of damage online. After this, it's very minimal amounts of extra damage added. It's mostly survivability at this point. And with only 3 items online versus the full 4 out of Strongest War God, one of those being a Toxic Blade, then the Divine Ruin, a Contagion. This is full anti-heal coming out of this team on the side of GSU. They've run against these Hells before. Anytime they've had to go up against someone like Unscathed is one of the other Hell players that we have in our league. Anytime they went up against them during play, we would see a lot of anti-heal build. And this is an adaptation that GSU has made time and time again. Is they have a lot of healing on one team. We're just all going to opt into anti-heal to make sure that somebody is covering this option every time necessary.
And that's exactly what GSU needs to do. Get as much anti-heal as possible, and not only that, with the Toxic Blade giving a little bit more attack speed to Strongest War God, then the Contagion being a very physical damage, because the Contagion also counters that Achilles heal as well when it comes to that Radiant Glory. Once you use the Radiant Glory and you use the Combat Dodge, the one ability, you're able to get some health back up. So that Contagion is really a good counter for the Achilles as well. So everything that they have does counter the healing that's coming out of Carleton.
Not just at the lifesteal out of Digtux. He's not going to be getting much benefit off of that either. And that's one of the things is anti-heal, while yes, it's great to have against actual healers, and yes, if there's an actual healer, you probably should spec into some of it, but just in general, when you look across builds and really minute style healings like Radiant Glory or mitigate wounds out of a Hercules, some kind of anti-heal is necessary just to slow them down. If your 2 hunters have the exact same builds going through, but one of them is getting 40% less 40% less healing from their lifesteal, I think you can take a guess at who's going to win out if they trade blow for blow.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that's no question, and that's specifically what you were talking about with like the Hercules mitigate wounds and the Radiant Glory stacking with the Shield of Achilles in the combat role. The Contagion is literally what that item was built for characters that have, for specifically warriors that have the healing inside of them. And that's what needed to happen. And with that Contagion being built, that is an aura effect, just like Pestilence. It works the exact same way as Pestilence, which is why they don't stack. Then you've got, like you said, the Toxic Blade, the Divine Ruin, the Brawler's Beat Stick. It's just starting to get redundant now at how much anti-heal Georgia State has. But the anti-heal is what's going to win them the game right now.
You can never be too safe against a Hell. One rotation of abilities from a Hell can heal somebody up from 0 to over half of their health with enough power built into it. The Fracture on a Digtux is going to put a big chunk on him. The Desert Fury, not quite enough. The Aegis just barely saving their lives. Basically, he's able to get back to the safety of his team thanks to the Protector Surge. But Tornby, I can't say the same. He's getting bursted down, and David jumps into the middle of all of them for some reason and gets dropped down. Digtux able to trade out one, but Lime Time in return will follow. Digtux has to use the airstrike to get back to the fountain. Only 3 players left. Big Stride in the middle of all, trying to find Avant, but the overhead smash after the impale. Avant will pick up the solo laner.
Avant is playing so well right now and playing so aggressively, making sure that he doesn't run away when he's only at 20 HP. He wants to fight with the rest of his team, and that's exactly what he needed to do. As this fight will go ahead and turn around, as the Kumba is going to go into sleeping time, and as you said, the World Serpent just kind of just breathes on you, and Kumba just no longer exists.
There is no sleepy time when it comes to the Jormungandr. He just makes sure that you are dead. Not sure how they're going to continue this fight. They're taking quite a bit of damage through. Terry's taking quite a bit, but it's not enough for Carleton to stop this. Only 22 minutes, a decisive victory for Georgia State. They shut down this comp out of Carleton Ravens and are going to send them back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and Carleton Ravens had some good things going for them. They were able to get some of these team fights going. They were able to outpressure Georgia a little bit in that early game, getting that first blood, making sure that David, who was behind Avant-Garde because of the bad rotate, not bad rotation, but the fight that happened on that red buff, pushing that down. David was able to claw his way back up into this game. There's a lot of things that Carleton can take out of this. This could be a pretty good fight right now. Carleton could look for possibly maybe sealing a game, maybe even two. We might go to game 5 with this, just the way that they played off that first game in that very first like 10 minutes of it.
And you can see with all the anti-heal that got built early on the side of Georgia State, minimal healing coming out of Lime Time on this hell, only 2,700. Now, he didn't have a ton of power online, so his heals weren't going to be as effective as a more damage-heavy hell. But even still, in over 20 minutes, only 2,700, you can see the power that anti-heal has against a hell, specifically in this matchup here. And I mean, looking through basically tons of ward coverage as well. In that last siege, we saw wards scattered all throughout that bottom side of the jungle to make sure that no one on Carleton could sneak up on them.
I have to say, everybody, wards win game. If you continue to start losing games, start warding more. Find the corridors that they keep coming from and ward those places. If you die because there's not a ward, that's technically could be on you because everybody can buy wards. But what's also really impressive is basically almost out healing Lime Time the exact same level as the mid laner, and literally only, I would say, maybe 125 healing away. So that was just one healing ability from basically going into a full minion wave. That's how close it was when it came to the healing. So Lime Time was very shut out, which is exactly what Georgia State needed to do to secure this victory.
And with that, Georgia State takes game number 1, and we're going to take it to a quick break. When we come back, game number 2 between the Ravens and the Panthers will be decided. Stick around. We'll be right back. everyone, and welcome back. Game number 2 on the board now for Carleton and Georgia State in the semi-final matchup here of the AVGL Collegiate Championships for Smite. I'm J-Mac Tucker. With me, Fuzzy Wuzzy. You were a bear, but did you have hair?
I did have a beard at one point, and if you go back into the VODs, you'll see the ginger beard growing out. But I did shave it; it is gone, much to the horror of some people and much to the praise of others. So it's a little bit interesting. But speaking of horror, Carleton do not want to deal with that Hunbats right there, nor the Jormungandr as they get banned out.
I wouldn't either. After that game, I don't want to deal with those though. After watching it, I don't want to deal with it. And on the flip side, we do see standard bans coming out of Georgia State because they have no reason to have to ban anything else. Or ISIS just take away the safe stuff, make sure that they don't have to worry about, the ridiculously powerful things here. Now, it's the question, is Carleton going to ban the Persephone like they did last time, or are they going to leave it up to Georgia State to decide if it goes in this game or not?
I don't think... well, I was going to say something completely different, but nope. Caster's curse. I'm just going to sit back here and let them decide, because it's not in my script. I thought, in my script, I had Carleton banning out possibly like Set there, and then Georgia Tech banning out like hell, just be like, ooh, spicy, try to deal with it, and then the Persephone getting picked by Georgia State in the second pick. But no, they're going to go ahead and ban out Freya on Georgia State, and again, no one wants to deal with that Freya right now, especially with how she was reverted back to February 2017 Freya, which was, oh man, those are bringing back some flashbacks right there, J-Mac.
Hyper carry Freya, the true definition of hyper carry. I see the word thrown out so many times by so many people these days where it's just like, oh, this guy's a hyper carry because you get them to late game and they just win. You get this guy in the late game and he just wins all the time. But when it comes down to a tried and true hyper carry, it's a god that sucks for like the first 25 to 30 minutes of the game. You think of your Kali's, your Freyas, your Mercuries. They're not that good for the first half of the game when they don't have their items online. But when they get those late game items, you give them just a tiny little bit of CC on their side, a little bit of support from their team, and they just run train over everything. When they can kill your tanks faster than anything else, that is when you get to the true definitions of hyper carry. And Freya is one of those still very hard defining hyper carries in this game. But it's just an old throwback of the same stuff we saw last time. Achilles picked up for Carleton, and on her Merlin, one more time for Georgia State.
And that's exactly what Georgia State needs. Just why not run it back? There's nothing to really change, obviously, except for, of course, the Hunbats and the Jormungandr, so you have to change that a little bit. But what was interesting is that Carleton decided to ban out the Jormungandr, specifically because Achilles can counter Jormungandr in the early game. You have a little bit of that pressure, especially when you hit that level 5 with the Fatal Strike. Jormungandr can't get away from you for about 1.5 seconds with that animation for World Serpent. And if they're at execution threshold, the animation for Fatal Strike is only 0.75 seconds. So you have that wonderful gap of about 0.75 seconds to be able to knock off that Fatal Strike, and then Jormungandr's is gone. And then not only that, you have the Fatal Strike to cool down for, I think it's about 10 seconds, 8 to 10 seconds, that it can keep refreshing itself. As Hachiman is going to go ahead and locked in. And you were talking about a hyper carry, and Hachiman's good in all stages of the game, especially when he's paired up with the elephant, the one true god, Ganesha.
The elephant getting a little bit of play here. We've seen this banned away from basically in the past. This time can be taken away from him and put in the hands of Tornby, who piloted the Kumakarn last time. Kumakarn, not my favorite god into Jormungandr specifically, just because it basically is a complete counter to his passive. But I do like the Ganesh in specific situations. He's not one of those gods you just pick up every time. You are there for setup and you're for objective burn more than anything else. And Hachiman is a great god to pair with it, because if you want objective burn, you drop the pillars down and then you drop the heavenly banner and you get a lot of objective shred with the extra attack speed and the protection reduction out of that Dharma pillar. But into the banning phase, and right before it, Amaterasu somehow squeaked by all the way until 6th pick on the side of Georgia. And Poseidon Horus banned away. Not going to give that one back to basically.
Yeah, it seems like that Carleton's saying, okay, we have 5 bans. Let's ban 4 of the characters that we saw yesterday right now. Well, right now 3. But let's see if we can ban out all 4 from the last game. And right now, Georgia State have a formula. They're going to go ahead and ban out the exact same things that they banned last game, but they are going to ban out the Kumbhakarna. basically on a Kumbhakarna could be very potent. So like I was saying, with those 4 CC abilities that you're able to have, basically is a aggressive support. And Kuba can be a very aggressive god, but he can also be played very peely to try to help out his team. So it's a good ban for Carleton, making sure that basically doesn't get that, as Ravana is going to go ahead and be locked up, probably more for the jungle. But what do you think about that Amaterasu? You thinking more solo, or are you thinking more support on basically?
It doesn't really feel like a basically style god because Amaterasu, while she can help kind of snowball the early lead, she does have those auras that allow for either extra damage or extra movement speed. This feels more along the lines of the solo lane more often than not. I think they're waiting to see what gets finalized on the side of Carleton before they lock in if that's gonna go support or solo. The Robin feels it's a little early, and I'm not a big fan of Vulcan into this either. Vulcan is one of those gods that really struggles against a god like Robin because he can't run away from the Robin, and Robin has 2 ways of getting out of the Vulcan ultimate himself. So, very curious pickup here.
But what you do, what works with Vulcan is a Ganesha. If Ganesha is able to put up the Dharmic pillars up, and Vulcan's able to ult inside of the Dharmic pillars, that's a lot of damage. Either they have to leave the pillars, or they have to accept the fate that's coming at them with the Vulcan ult. But the Pele is going to be able to help out the Vulcan a little bit with those knockups, with the high damage, and not only that, but the mobility that she's going to be able to give, because Vulcan also has a good mobility. Every time that he's able to use an ability right there, he's able to go a little bit more faster. So especially with that back pedal, or that back backdash, or the main clear basically for a Vulcan, he's able to run away. He gets a little bit more movement speed right there. So I think the Vulcan could be good, only if he doesn't get collapsed on by this Robin, as you were saying.
Last god locked in with that Xing Chen on basically. That is definitely more of a basically style god. Very aggressive support. And you can see they're all grouping around this red buff. They want to grab basically. Basically sees 2. That's an immediate turn away. Now, the one good thing about Xing Chen is really all 3 of his abilities are great for early game. You have basic attack reduction out of the 1. You have a knock up into a root with the 2. And then you have a double jump with his 3rd ability. So no matter what he gets in that situation, aside from maybe the 1, he has some way of being able to get out of there, as we do see a slight pause coming out into the game. Looks like it will finally go back through, thanks to the help of a wonderful observer able to get through that pause, no problem. We do see basically still trying to make that rotation. They didn't scare him off, and that's the big thing. He's still here with that minion wave now going out the way through the tower. He's going to be able to make the blink in like he did last time, but he's going to be very late on it. Watch it being picked up as he came through. But the knock up into the root, thanks to the hook slam out of the Xing Chen. We'll put a little bit of poke onto David.
Yeah, that was a little bit late, but basically, as you were saying, is never going to be scared. He's always going to be looking for a fight. And that's kind of been his MO for a while now. We've seen him do a lot of really, really good things. As look, he's already going to go ahead and start taking over the blue buff right now away from Fixtron on that Achilles. And Achilles needs a blue buff, folks. Very, very badly. So giving the Amaterasu a blue buff, not only that, but a level lead and a totem lead now is going to be very good for Georgia State.
I'm very surprised to see an Amaterasu get lane pressure over to Achilles. The blink in. He's going to get a quick beads out of Lime Time, and that's the aggression you got to see out of a Robin. Out of Avant. Getting that early relic means that by level 5, he's going to have a lot of pressure through. The EI Jutsu out of the Hachiman is going to get the beads out of Zulgod, who went back onto this Merlin. A couple more basics all that needed. David going to find it thanks to a quick Pyroclast and an auto after. First blood one more time. Goes over to Carleton. The silence coming out of the Ganesh on Tornby, and a 3-man meatball out of Lime Time. Going to get a good amount of poke and a good peel on the side of Georgia State.
And that's exactly what Pele is going to do. She's going to focus the target that's going to be the most dangerous later on, which is that Merlin right now. Now, if Pele is able to get big off of killing the Merlin and possibly rotating to start killing the Amaterasu and possibly picking up these kills on Strongest War God and basically in that middle lane, this could be very good. And Carleton can keep snowballing that a little bit more, so that Lime Time is going to be much higher level than Strongest War God when it comes to time. But right now, Pele's just trying to farm, make sure that she stays ahead, because Vulcan, as you have said earlier, Freya is a hyper carry, so is Vulcan. So making sure that that Vulcan's able to do that and make sure that Pele is going to be able to support that is what's really going to be necessary.
Vulcan really does take a while to really come online, but that CC out of the out of what we like to call the meatball. You know, it's the tried and true name for it. We've been calling it that forever, but for the unfamiliar, it is the magma bomb. But just know that we'll always be referring to it as the meatball, especially if he's using the chef skin. Then it's a real, actual meatball here. But
Yeah, it's a spicy meatball, is what you have to say.
a spicy meat, but that's only if he's using the chef skin. Outside of that,
That's
it's just
true.
a meatball.
That's true.
Because then it's not spicy. Then it's just a plain meatball, and those aren't as good.
They're not as good, but they're just as good as Olive Garden meatballs, and Olive Garden meatballs are pretty good, in my opinion. And you want a little bit of kick to it, but not too much. You're just gonna clear the waves. Everybody's gonna mind their own business. No real aggression anywhere except for solo lane, but who cares about solo lane? But there is gonna be a little bit of aggression onto these mid camps right now. Possibly looking for a fight, basically an avant-garde right now.
Basically going to get the Furious Roar onto David, put a little bit of poke onto this Pele, but Pele not too worried. Getting that early kill going to help get them to that level 5 where they can try and make an aggressive play onto somebody, but Digtux going to get the solo kill onto Zoogod. Looks like they traded out for the ultimate there. Digtux using that mounted archery. See the kill onto his opposition, making sure to get a solo kill for himself. Going to really push that lead that they need.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the lead that they need, especially if Digtux is going to be able to start rotating to these fights early, because if Zoogod is out of these fights, because right now Zoogod's level 5, Digtux level 6, and he's got a pretty good gold advantage right now onto Zoogod. He can start building up that Devourer's Gauntlets. He's already got 60 stacks on his Hunter's Blessing. This could be massive right now for Digtux, because the more you snowball that lead, the more you have the ability to rotate.
Not just that, putting 2 kills, or 2 deaths, I should say, onto Zoogod is going to keep this Merlin down. Something they didn't worry about last game. They just kind of let this Merlin free roam for the majority of the game. Mostly Georgia State focusing down the hell, prioritizing that anti-heal last game. And now they've made that answer. Dash in on the strongest war guy's going to put some poke on his turn, but now that his dash and his escape is gone, the Desert Fury comes through. It's not quite enough damage. Torby's going to sneak through, and David's going to sneak around and find a bot in the midst of it all. Pyroclast and the fire out of Zuo, not enough damage to Torby and David, both gonna make it out of the fight.
And that was impressive, because Torby was able to pop Shell, and that Shell is literally the only thing that saved him in that fight altogether. What a great Shell from Tornbead, and being able to just make sure that Pele David is going to be able to get a kill. That's now putting David 2 kills up, especially on the Ravana, killing the Merlin and the Ravana. That's huge right now, and now those rotations are going to be even faster with that speed boots that they've got right there with the Talaria boots.
Line time. Tornby grouping up here into the mid lane, getting a little bit of experience for themselves. Line time finally hitting that level 5 earlier. Didn't have it for that first fight, which I think would have been a much easier factor of getting possibly another kill for Carleton, but now having that online, we can start getting some bigger damage through cooldown boots and the Cursed Orb out of Lime Time. We've been seeing this build time and time again on these mid lane mages.
And that's exactly what needs to happen, especially with this Vulcan. Vulcan lives off movement speed, and Doomorb is able to give so much movement speed, especially when you clear a wave. You can rotate much faster, and you can rotate much faster with that against it on her. So that's really what they're looking for right now, and it does give a lot of magical power. Granted, no pin, but you don't really need pin right now because no one's got really any sort of dedicated magical defensive items online right now. So you can look for maybe a Divine Ruin at the second for the third item after the Zoom Orb, as I would like to call it, is built.
Fixturion, a level down to this Ama. Not often that we see an Amaterasu getting an early lead. Not really known for getting the early lead in lane. With that Berserker shield, giving themselves a little bit of sustain to match the Gladiator shield out of Fixturion's Achilles. Not having the same effect on this Achilles this time around.
Yeah, and it's just because Amaterasu's new buff was able to specifically onto that onto the mirror strike is what she got the buff on. Was able to do more damage, but a blink from basically going to come in as Digtux going to be able to dash away, but basically is not done yet. He's going to dash in. He's going to ult, but the mounted archery is going to be used to get Digtux out of that as an ult for a blink, and I think that's going to be a big turn for Carleton because now they have a relic advantage in this next fight.
A big relic to hold on to, and great play out of Digtux, being patient, waiting for that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, basically doing the same, trying to bait, see which of the two he's going to get. Was it going to be the beads? Was it going to be the ult? The Digtux recognizing the timing, able to get onto that horse in time, and save that relic for the next fight. Now he has that if he wants to go up against Zoogod here on this Merlin. Still keeping pace, despite having 2 deaths onto him. Zoogod's still at that same level 9 mark.
Yeah, and that's just the solely for the Merlin being able to farm efficiently. Merlin can clear waves very, very well, and when left alone, you're going to keep up with that in the sense of actual experience. Gold-wise, it's a little bit different story, but if you take a look right now, the different story is only 300 gold.
And that's just in the overall aspect. Even with the first blood bouncing on the way of Carleton, they haven't been able to really do much with their lead. They've gotten 2 more kills after the first blood, but that gold lead is even less than the first blood's bounty. Fixtrion taking a bit of poke is basically in War God. Finger rotation maybe looking at Fixtrion, but Fix will be able to get himself back to the tower and back to safety. 3-man grouping for these right side mid camps out of Carleton Ravens. And this early into the game, I'm surprised we're not seeing more aggression out of this Pele. She has great level 5 all the way up and through about level 14, 15. So that's where she kind of starts falling because people start matching up to her level, matching up her damage and the amount of tankiness that you need to deal with her. David's going to give it a little bit of poke. The root in is going to get a quick volcanic lightning out of David. Great play by Avant, trading out ult to Blink.
And, you know, you're absolutely right. Pele needs to be a little bit more aggressive right now because she is considered a mid-lane carry. Mid-game carry, excuse me. With that mid-game that she's able to give, she's able to snowball everybody else out of these big fights. And so looking onto getting, you know, focusing the squishier targets like War God or even possibly AVGL, you're able to do that. But that ultimate right there for Dong was so close to be able to get it out, but the combat dodge was able to get out of the way.
The red buff, Carleton go. Something they didn't get to touch very much last game. Is GSU kind of made that their shop. They set it up there. They said, this is where we live now. This is where we're going to. Right through the pillar goes Torby with that remove obstacles. David's looking for a path to get in. But with the Mystic Rush out of Avant into the Desert Fury out of the Cannon Shadow Fist, Avant is going to trade out and get David. Big turnaround kill here for Georgia State to get their first one on the board.
And look at that, Lime Time and Torby realize that Dig Tug is over there on the left-hand side, back towards their Tier 1 tower, trying to see if they can bait them into a fight, but not being able to because ultimates were used right there, and a lot of relics were used right there as well for Georgia State, so making sure they realize that they got the pick on the bigger target, which was the Pele, on David, and then just disengaging, realizing that, hey, now we have the gold lead, we have the 700 gold lead now. So let's try to keep this up and keep slowly moving forward because eventually we can snowball this into winning the game.
And from just past experience with this Carleton team, this has kind of been one of their follies. Their early game is usually where they shine, but we're not seeing that big early game coming out of them. Dawn getting all 3 strikes with the dazzling offensive on a Fixtrion, getting them low, but Fixtrion trying to get him down into execute threshold for the fatal strike. Not quite enough necessary. The double combat dodge. The block in from Avant off of the blink. Perfect play out of the jungler. But David's trying to turn this one around. Linking for the last shot at the Dawn. The Pyroclast not enough damage. Torby not going to hit with the Turn of Fate. But we'll be able to get the dash to secure and root him in place for David to get the cleanup kill.
AVGL blinking in and to stop the fatal strike was absolutely insane right there. That is some mechanical prowess that you don't see often. And folks, that's what you get when you watch the college players play, because we've had some great college players come out. As Dharma Pillars is going to go ahead and get pulled. As spin to win's going to happen. Desert Fury's going to go ahead. Strongest War God's going to get one. The Vulcan's going to come over and get basically as strongest War God's going to try to get and secure Torby.
Lifetime gonna juke out the Blizzard on the back, but he's gonna get jumped on by Strongest War. The beads to avoid the impale, but it's not enough as Zuo burns him to ashes on that Merlin. The rotation from this side lane carry's gonna net the kill, but it looks like it's gonna cost them the Tier 1 tower. Great Vulcan ultimate, just catching Avant on the edge of that circle.
And that was exactly what Vulcan was needed to do. Just do crazy amounts of damage where you can't hear it. Unfortunately, Carleton Ravens weren't able to secure that Tier 1 tower on the left-hand side because now Merlin is back. So they weren't able to get that Tier 1, so they can't really snowball that advantage a little bit to try to make sure that they get into that, 100 to 200 gold range. So even with that, Georgia State with those 3 kills are able to be right now about 1,500 gold away.
Back to the red buff. Make sure to secure that one for themselves. get onto this Vulcan, but there's a 2-level deficit between these mid laners, despite how well Lime Time has been playing this early game. You know, even having the 1 death early on, still flanking from basically is going to get the knock up into the root, but the jump going to make sure to get basically out back to the safety. A little bit of farm deficit out of these mid laners. It was about a level and a half between them. And with Strongest War God on the upper end of that, on the on her, be quite terrifying in these early games.
Yeah, and if you could take a look right now, Lime Time's building into a Breastplate of Valor, it seems like, with that Steel Mail. So trying to get a little bit more cooldown on top of that is really going to be great right there. The Breastplate obviously getting 20%. Wow, Dig Tugs, that Aegis was perfect timing. He's running it right now about 20 HP, and then it would went up to 30 to 40 because of the HP 5. But they look at right now, Georgia State is realizing that they're weak. Basically, he's trying to start a fight over here on this duo lane side, possibly even look for a Gold Fury right now.
Strongest War God alongside him, just rotating around, making sure supports and mids are following each other. The leap away from the remove obstacles on Torby, make sure that he doesn't get knocked up. Ball not going to connect either from Lime Time. The Gold Fury started up, but definitely not going to be continued by this Georgia State squad.
Yeah, right now they're just looking for another fight right now. If they can get David, or if they can get a couple people in the back like Lime Time, as AVGL was trying to blink in to get something happen, but the Ohm from Tornby was just massive, making sure that everything was stayed alive.
Just out of range on that. The ultimate out of the Vulcan's going to get a lot of damage, but will not be enough to save Dig Tugs. David on the wraparound and the backfire through the wall. Lime Time gonna find basically 2 for 1 straight out on the side of Carleton, and that's the fight that they need to take.
But look who's here now. Dong is here, and Dong is not gonna stray away from this fight, but he should, as the Dharmic Pillar's gonna be locked. He's gonna get stuff, but Zero God and Strongest War God are gonna be able to get a lot of damage off. Lime Time is the only person available on this dual lane side. They can't get the Gold Fury, so it ended up being a very even trade for... No, Lime, please don't do it. Don't do it to him, as the backfire's going to get off. The turret's going to be placed, but the Blizzard's going to be able to kill the turret to where that Zero God doesn't get as much damage done to him. But Zero God can easily go ahead and just lifesteal back up because he does have that Pythax piece available. So he's just going to be able to clear waves quickly and lifesteal it all back away.
So you can see onto the replay, the backfire through the wall from Lime Time picks up 1. But unfortunately, as we're about to see, everybody just funnels into the one narrow passageway of the jungle. They all stack up on top. And what does Merlin and Fire Stance love? Tight corridors and everybody inside. You can see they're all grouped up inside that Dragon Flame. And alongside with the Radiate, they're able to just melt their opposition. Great plays out of Georgia State. They're able to net a couple of kills for themselves. And a great return off of the original advantage that Carleton had gotten.
And that's what happens with Carleton. You were explaining that they have a great early game, but it seems like they struggle a little bit on the team fight. And this is what's showing. Georgia State have a fantastic team fight. We've seen it time and time again that they are tried and true on team fighting. So now Georgia State have the not only advantage when it comes to gold, but now they have the level advantage because of who's died and when have they died. It's very small advantages, but those small advantages are exactly what Georgia State clings on to and snowballs that victory. This could go more of the way of what we saw in Game 1, as Georgia State could look to easily start picking 1-by-1 targets, because that's all Carleton know how to do, is just kind of not group up together. And you really don't want to group up with the Merlin or the on her because of that Desert Fury.
Most aggressive mid lane ward battle I've ever seen coming between two teams. I think 4 wards were dropped in the midst of that just to make sure that they had vision control on the bottom side of the mid camp. With the Oracle Harpies in favor of Carleton, they have vision on this Gold Fury. Group of Georgia State are starting to come around. Heavenly Banner onto Duo God. He's level 17 on this Merlin. And with just a basic Icicle Strike, the Frostbolt out of Duo. He does the Torby so death. The Mystic runs into the back from Avant. Spinning through those Dharmic Pillars is not enough to save out the lives. Torby will fall. Avant and Dawn both so low into the back. Victorion's trying to get the last hit onto it. The blink from David. He's staring at Dawn, and Dawn hits him with the mirror as he passes him by. Zuo grabs Dig Tugs in the back. Only Victorion's here. He almost could get a big amount of kills here. Just get the first one. Needs some more, but he doesn't have the ultimate to get the execute onto basically. And in the middle of all 3 players, you will fall. A deicide for the side of Georgia State and a Gold Fury as their prize.
Remember when I said Georgia State was tried and true when it comes to team fighting? That's why. Because Carleton were trying to basically make sure that they got away themselves. So they started splitting up together, and then the blink happened from David into a target that the Achilles was guiding towards. So that's more of a communication breakdown, it seems like, from Carleton Ravens. But the Gold Fury and the pickup from Georgia State, making sure they got a 5-for-2 trade. On top of that, a Gold Fury, this gold difference went from about a 1,500 gold difference to about a 5,000 gold difference in a snap of a finger.
And the Fatal Strike blocked super early means that Vixtrion never was able to get a reset of that. If he would have had Fatal Strike available during that fight, may have been able to pick up 1 or 2 more kills because of that. But unfortunate for him, not having access to that ultimate means that it's going to be a 2-for-5 trade in Georgia State's favor. And this has always been my statement towards Carleton is they have a great early game. They've always excelled in early game, but when it comes to this mid game, if they don't have that lead, if they don't have a big advantage for themselves, their late game slowly starts to falter. The Whirlwind of Rage and Steel is going to throw David to the mix. Everybody's going to get out of that Earthquake, or the Earthshaker, out of line time. Desert Fury is going to do quite a bit of damage, but David's going to return fire and basically will fall alongside of Vaughn, who gets rotated on by Vixtrion. 2 kills so far for Carleton, and looking to make it 1 for the side of Georgia State, and Vixtrion put under half.
As Vixtrion still shooting the chick on targets, but look at this mid lane right now, as Dong is trying to go for a 3v1, but Strongest War God is a little bit in a bad position. But Zoogod's just going to put down the flames and make sure that he is safe right now, as this Pyromancer could get pulled right now for Carleton Ravens.
A little bit risky, especially since Zuo is in the area, and this Merlin has great steal and poke potential, especially depending on the stance that he is sitting in. Looks like he might still be in that fire stand. No, he's in the ice stance for the moment. We'll drop that Blizzard and a Frostbolt towards David to back him off. Pyromancer still aggroed, under half HP at the moment. The jump back from Strongest War God will get him back to the safety of his team. Zuo going to drop the Blizzard on top and force them off Pyro. Dawn goes in aggressively onto Tornby, putting a lot of damage onto the elf. It's going to force them out. Zuo drops the Dragon Flame and the Blinken from Dawn. Going to be slowed by those pillars at a Tornby, and Dig Tucks all the while is going to find Strongest War God in the back alongside Vixtrion.
As Vixtrion is still trying to get Dig Tucks out of this, as Dong's going to find Lifetime in the back. The Flames are going to go get hit. Zoogod getting Dig Tucks basically is back. He had died in the beginning of this fight, and now he's just sticking on Vixtrion, but now the pings are coming out because they're trying to find where David is right now. But right now, Georgia State just turned this whole fight on their head. They could look for the Pyromancer, but it does look like the AVGL is going to go ahead and get onto David right now. But the Pyromancer is going to go ahead and get started. Vixtrion is still going to be lurking around right now as the ward's going to be placed. Combat dodge is not going to be a time, but look at the flame damage right there, as basically is really low, but the fight's still going on. Vixtrion's going to fall to Doug, and now they're going to look at Pele, but Pele is able to get David right there. AVGL falling to David right there.
The knockup out of basically, and not only that, the dodging of the Shield of Achilles, making sure to not get stunned by the ability, and then CC him into a chain with no combat rule available to him. He used it to initiate into the fight. Able to get a quick pick onto the Achilles. Unfortunately, they do trade out Avant for it. Avant falling to David, who is just doing a little too much damage, and now opting. One thing we didn't even notice, David going for the Talaria shoes. Or the Talaria boots. We don't see this very often out of a Pele. Usually you want to see a lot of damage, but that extra movement speed's so big.
Yeah, the Talaria boots were very, very, very potent in that fight with AVGL over there, making sure that he's able to dodge around a little bit more. That 5% movement speed is very, very, very potent and very well known. But what was even more interesting is the fact that the Georgia State decided to break off of the Pyromancer to try to kill David onto that dual lane, or on that solo lane side to get that tower. But if they stuck to the Pyromancer side, even if they lost the tier 1 tower in that right side, they ended up more with a gold lead. So I'm surprised that they decided to peel off right there and go for David.
Pyromancer started up, the Earthshaker drop, but it's not going to be in time as Georgia State secures the Pyromancer after a long, probably 3 to 4 minutes of teams going back and forth to grab this objective. Finally, Georgia State will get it for themselves. The ward control looks to be in favor of Carleton on the Fire Giant at the moment. I believe that is a blue ward that was dropped in the pit. Big Strong going to get blinked on by Avant. He's going to use the overhead kick just to get away from the meatball. Ult in from basically not going to grab anyone as Vixtrion uses the Fatal Strike to get out of it. Torby going to get a good impale against him by Strongest War God on the On Her. And now basically no health is going to find his way out of the fight.
Yeah, but he's still going to try to be a little bit aggressive. This is basically what we're talking about. So he's going to try to make sure that if there is a fight that starts to occur, he's going to stick around with it. But he is able to back securely. But David getting not only the tier 1, but possibly even the tier 2 right now onto this. I guess it is now a Loki gate, J-Mac, because the tier 2 is going to fall. And David's going to go ahead and zoom right on out of there.
Taking a page out of Meerkat's book with that Pele, making sure that they can grab a tower for themselves while the rest of the fight's happening at the Oni Fury. The Desert Fury not going to be enough as Carleton does secure the Fury for themselves. He's going to net themselves some extra gold with fully those Oni waves. And Victorion, I'm not sure why you were still all the way up there. He'll take a spill. Dharmic Pillars dropped out of Tormby, and the ultimate from basically going to grab a minion for his troubles. That minion is pretty powerful. Not going to die to that damage just yet.
Not just yet, because it is an Oni minion, so it's a little bit tanky, a little bit more health, and a lot more damage that comes out of those Oni minions. As the tier 1 is going to fall for Georgia State. Now the goal difference seems to be starting to creep up a little bit less and less now. Carleton's starting to team fight a little bit better, making sure that these turnarounds are doing really well. But look over on the left-hand side as Merlin, Zuo God, is actually going to get that tier 1 tower in the dual lane.
Again, this Merlin left alone. Now 6-2 and 6. He's finished up his 5th item, the Obsidian Shard. And it's an item that I have to say we unfortunately don't see enough at some of the other ends of play. It's such a powerful and potent item for shredding through these tanks. And Merlin, great at killing tanks, especially in that fire stance.
Absolutely, because the fire stance with that dragon fire is going to have that protection shred, and then on top of an obsidian shard is going to make that even more so because of that stacking that happens. So it's going to be very, very potent, because now Tornby and also Fixtrion are going to have a real hard problem locking down this Merlin, because if he's in flame stance, your health is going to be gone, as David's going to go ahead and get a kill right there. Actually, Digtux is going to go ahead and get it with the horse, not at archery, but it does look like that David's going to be out of position right now, as Doug is going to go ahead and get the kill on the David.
Grab one of your 1-for-1. It's basically the support traded out for David, the jungler. The knockoff on the Don Gavius is going to be good from Tormby, but no major follow-up coming through out of the rest of the team. Fixtrion trying to find a path in the back, but he's staring down 4 players. Tormby with no Dharmic Pillars, only the ult out of Fixtrion left on this side. Same for Dawn on the Amaterasu, with only the Soul Laner's ult. No major fight looking to be broken out here. With Zuo on this Merlin is going to make sure that they're not able to find their way into the tower. Very capable at clearing those minions is mid lane Merlin, but they don't care about the minions. If the tower's low enough that Carleton can risk a couple shots.
Yeah, and that's what Carleton need to do right now. They need to try to find ways to be able to get this gold lead back into their favor. Right now, they're about 4,000 gold lead, 4,400-ish, give or take a few gold here and there, but to do farm and everything like that. But really what they're trying to do is get pressure somewhere. They've got pressure on the soul lane side with all the towers gone. They've got pressure in the dual lane side because of that Oni wave that still hasn't been touched yet, and just being pushed up into this tier 2 right now. Now Georgia State realized they're going to have to deal with that Oni wave. This could be the chance right now for Carleton to go ahead and look towards that fire giant.
That camp's cleared out by Lime Time. The unfortunate part of the Vulcan is his primary wave clear is also a dash backwards, so he pulls himself out of those camps. The unfortunate life of a Vulcan player is when you backfire just a little too far and you get knocked out of whatever camp or buff you were dealing with at the time and reset it. Never fun.
It's never fun, especially when you're in an XP camp and you just want to get a little bit more farm, because if you take a look at the level difference, it's 2 levels. So right now, Lime Time's like, please, I just want XP buff. Why do you have to reset when I use my backfire? And the XP buff doesn't care because it's an NPC. So no one cares about your life when you're an NPC, when you're a character dealing with an NPC.
The real Vulcan strats is once you have that turret maxed out, you just drop it at a back camp, and it just clears it for you if you have enough items and damage online. So just make sure to clear that camp. You get a free XP camp, and so long as you don't need that, which you typically need it very often, just to have some kind of poke tool or something to block an auto or two, maybe. That's necessarily for it. As the fight starts breaking out over by the Fire Giant, you see the line shot out of the Fire Giant expended through, trying to get somebody. Looks like basically taking the brunt of the damage. Tormby, a little bit of poke himself, as Digtux stacking up that passive of his by firing onto the Pyromancer, stacking up all of what he needs. Fire Anthem now half health. The Blizzard dropped on top in the beer, the reset. The Ohm out of Tornby. Not going to stop the hook slam out of basically puts Tornby down to half health. The Pillars dropped out of fear of Tornby. That's a big cooldown expended.
That's a huge cooldown expended as they're still trying to aggress right now Georgia State onto this Pyromancer, because look right now, Zero God's going to go ahead and clear this mid lane, but now they're starting to realize that on Carleton that, hey, we can pull this right now because their 2 damage dealers are over there trying to clear the mid wave. As now they realize that Zero and AVGL are going to be in the back line. Basically still has enough health to be able to engage right now. And now here comes the blink. The Ohm coming out to stop the knockup and the dash, but here comes the big ultimate for basically. Beats are going to be expended right now for Lime Time, as Dong is going to go ahead and use the ult as well. As Tornby is really in a bad position right now, but Fixtrion's going to pick up basically. Zero's going to go ahead and pick up Tornby as AVGL picks up Dave. As look at the weak right here. The Fatal Strike just off target, but Lime Time is going to go ahead and get Strongest War God. Right now, Fixtrion is going to go ahead and keep diving onto Dong right now.
His own pillar, the death of him, and Strongest drops it on top of himself. Not able to get around it because of that. The backfire from Lime Time is enough to finish. The meatball backfire out. The egg is out of Zuo to make sure he immunes the majority of that damage. And tying alongside Dawn with the movement speed aura on the Ama, able to get themselves out. And with the flicker, back to the safety of their Phoenix. A fight that looked like it could have gone so well for Georgia State because the pillars were down. Falls flat.
It fell flat, but somehow Carleton was able to take a nice deep breath and realize that they're going to engage on us. You know, this could be big brain. Tornby could be so big brain that he dropped the pillars specifically so basically would run at them. I'm going to say that.
Don't inflate his ego any. We don't need Tornby with an ego more than anything. Like that's one of the last players that we need getting a big head thinking, oh yeah, look at me, I did it intentionally. It was all a bait. Maybe a bit of a misclick onto with the Fire Giant. Now started up here by Georgia State. The Dragon Fire dropped down by Zuo. Puts his Fire Giant at half, but they don't have any major secure out of this. They don't have the staying through. The pillar dropped out by Tornby. The Fire Giant's getting low. Georgia State will grab it, but a big ult out of Lime Time thanks to the help of Tornby. They're going to pick up one Dawn on full retreat on the Ama, but it's not enough to get away from the horse out of Dig Tucks.
As the fight still continues right now, David right now trying to get on Basically, but Basically is going to be able to dash away as the pings are coming out, as there's a big wave over on the right side, as the Desert Fury is going to go ahead and fall onto David. David having to beads right there, but Basically looking really low as they're trying to disengage, but Fixtrion does not want to stop fighting. He's got that speed buff. He wants to keep pushing this with this massive wave right now. Fixtrion taking a few pokes of the Phoenix. As the banner is going to go ahead and get dropped to try to get some attack speed onto the Dig Tug. Basically now is back at full health going on Tornby.
Getting very low and into the back is Fixtrion. Gonna get blocked out of that Fatal Strike, and Strongest Wargod will put the final shot necessary. But a return fire from Lime Time will make sure he gets thrown through. Basically gonna throw David at the fountain, but just shy of getting to it. The 10-hand Shadow Fist out of Avant will be enough to get the jungler dropped down. The Phoenix will fall on that right-hand side, and only Basically now left with this Fire Giant. All 4 other players have lost that buff in a matter of minutes.
And that is really what the Fire Giant is. Fire Giant has always and forever been a bait, as the bait still continues, as now the Carleton want to keep fighting this. Going ahead, Amaterasu is going to ult as Tornby's going to get stunned by it. Tornby will probably fall right here, but the Ohm is going to give him the mitigations to stay alive for just a little bit longer, as Dong's going to be able to get the gear. The autos coming out from Dig, but the autos are doing much more, as the Aegis comes out right now from Dig. He's going to drop the banner, not to do enough, but Lime Time is going to go ahead and pick up Dong, as the mounted archery is going to go ahead and get Basically to try to slow him. Not enough damage right there. Lime Time is going to look to be aggressive as the backfire through those minions to give him a little bit more movement speed. It's probably Meatball to try to get Basically.
One item in Basically's kit allows him to get out of that, and that's the Wing Blade he picked up 4th item. Something we didn't mention, basically for a much more unconventional support build out of here. The Breastplate of Valor, the Shogun's Kasari to help supplement Strongest War God, but most importantly, that 4th item, Wing Blade. Looking at the opposition here, Lime Time able to do a little bit of damage, and most importantly, Tornby with the slow out of the pillars, Dig Tux with the slow out of his ultimate, and Fixtrion as well, just able to put a massive amount of poke onto it. This Wing Blade is keeping him alive. It's the only reason I think that Basically is able to get out of that last fight.
You're absolutely right, and it does look like that right now Lime Time's going to go into possibly an Ethereal Staff as DigTux is going to try to go ahead and start this Primal Fury, which is exactly the Fury that they need right now. Enhanced Fire Giant is going to start spawning here now, folks. So the Primal Fury is going to give you 7% more damage to this Fire Giant. And now they're going to all, look at this, they're all grouped up 5. Right here on this left-hand side of the map, they could easily push up and take that tier 2, get some pressure over there, and the Fire Giant's going to spawn within 2 minutes and 30 seconds. They could possibly even look for a Phoenix fight. Go back and grab fire if the Phoenix fight fails, and then go and push the game. This could be Carleton Ravens' game to take.
Extended team fights have been the downside of Georgia State because a lot of their burst comes from frontline. They're not so well on the sustained outcome of these fights. And now with this tier 2 in left, being aggressed on, the minion wave is there and more than enough to help them drop it down. Only one tower left on the map for Georgia State, showing a little bit of weakness here. Avant's not able to stay alive long enough to do the damage to this team. Basically, can't grab anybody with these ultimates. The downside of the Xing Chen is because of how long and how much time is spent between fights. Those beads are coming back up so fast, and the cooldowns of these ultimates are coming back online. So really, basically just can't grab anyone to make any kind of big commit for his team.
And you're absolutely right. That is the downfall for Xing Tian, especially the long animation time from that ultimate is just absolutely disgusting. As it does look like they're just going to try to get some more farm, make sure that Tornby can get up to level 20. But they're looking around this Pyromancer, possibly warding up around the Fire Giants, make sure that they can start prepping for a Fire Giant pull. They already have one Phoenix down. It's not on the optimal side that you want a Phoenix to be down when it comes to trying to start a fight at Fire Giant, because as I have said before, Fire Giant is a bait. Especially if there's more than 3 people alive on the other team. Because a steal can happen, chaos can happen, you can get so low on a Fire Giant that your whole team can get wiped, as Georgia State saw earlier.
Carleton going to get the Pyromancer and make their way back to base. About a 1,500 gold lead at this stage. It's essentially a dead even game. If we look at the levels across the board, it's only a 1 level difference, and that's just between the supports. Basically, entirely even here in this matchup at 35 minutes. This is typically where Carleton, in my opinion, is generally at their weakest, but so far they've been showing that they've stepped up their later game. They had a rough early mid game last time, which is not able to let them get into the team fighting in the late game stages. But this time around, Carleton stepping it up and stepping into the pit of the Fire Giant. No one on Georgia State is even remotely in the area. Do they even know that this is happening?
They don't even have a ward placed right now. This could be Georgia State's right now, because look at this. All their wards are defensively. They're warding completely on every single lane right around the Phoenix. They've conceded this enhanced Fire Giant. That is a huge and very defensive call for Georgia State, something that we don't ever see from them. Georgia State seems to be on the back foot, and now they're 3k gold down. We're starting to get to the final point where gold doesn't really necessarily matter, but for these supports, it does matter. They're now, Tornby's now level 19, and this fight right now is going to get big, as Frizzy's going to go ahead and pop, but David is almost one-shot as tough. Big Desert Fury is going to come out and do lots of damage.
It's a big old line time as well, but there's no follow-up behind it. They spend 3 ults, make that a 4th now out of basically only Dawn has his ult, and he's using that just to only stun out Victreon. They're not going to get anything else off of their engagement, and everyone else on Carleton rather healthy. Aside from live about half HP, DigTux can always lifesteal off the minions, but without their jungler, they're gonna go ahead and concede this fight. They're not gonna continue forward and try and go for this Phoenix.
And what David did was exactly what you need to do. You need to basically try to push up that middle wave, or a wave of some sort, to basically try to get as many people over to the jungler as possible, because the jungler should be able to get out of these fights. And what happened there was just, unfortunately, Georgia State realizing and playing to their strength and defense. Tornby just got red buff. As I was talking, Tornby, as the Ganesha just picked it up. I hope Ganesha gets a kill here, ladies and gentlemen. But as I was saying, the jungler was trying to rotate into that mid to be able to make sure that they can get some pressure there, so that someone or 2 people rotate, so that a good fight could happen over on the solo lane side. Unfortunately, that didn't work, because Georgia State is smart enough to realize that if we send all 5 over to get a kill, that's what's going to be able to stop it, because then the Carleton have to actually come around and defend him.
Pointed out here on the spectator, you can see the number of wards placed this game. An astounding 21 wards out of basically. One thing that he is known for, though he is a very aggressive player, he makes sure that he is always covering himself on these aggressive plays. And we can see that with 21 wards placed. Previously, 7 over the previous, now only 5. as Digtux places a couple of wards for himself. On the bottom end of it, however, Fixtron, you might want to step up that ward game, my friend. Only 4 at 37 minutes?
Oh, no, he's just playing like me. I never ward when I play solo lane. I only have about 4 or 5 wards.
Don't encourage them. Don't do that. Please
As a big fight's going to happen over for this Oni Fury, which is a really big Fury to have right now for both teams. Carleton need it because just to try to get pressure in other lanes, as they're going to go ahead and secure it right now. Georgia State have to back off. This is the first time I've ever seen Georgia State play so defensively right now.
And they kind of have to, going up against a Fire Giant, not just that, an enhanced Fire Giant team of the Carleton Ravens with as much power as they're provided. With this Vulcan now hitting that late game stride, with the Dharmic Pillars now maxed out, a ton of damage and a ton of lockdown on the side of Carleton, where they have to be the counter initiation. Every time they've initiated with basically, he's gotten a bead, 1 or 2 sets of beads, but he basically is either dead or nearly dead every single time he starts the fight. So they want to be the ones to now reinitiate after the initial fight has started up.
And that's just the catch-22 of Xingqian, everybody. It's just the fact that you have to give yourself up to try to get kills. As here we go again, Fixtron this time now going to be with his jungler to try to push that right side up. And realizing it, they're just going to have the strongest War God over there now. So now it's a 3v3, and they're wanting to get a good, decent fight as a lot of damage comes out. Duocod doing lots of damage to Digtux, but not able to get it as the Susain, specifically from the Fire Giant and the auto attack from the Power Scotland's getting him alive.
Very aggressive dash from Dawn as he rotates back over, but David still alone over here with strongest War God, leaving their Hunter to face off against the jungler on the side of Carleton. David, the only one without Fire Giant. Well, I have to say that Fire Giant buff wears off of everybody. And so now for the next minute, it will be a full retreat out of Carleton, really wanting to push this game as long as they need. Playing very patiently, understanding and respecting the damage and the anti-siege that can come out of Georgia State. With that Merlin, it's so hard to just jump into the middle of the fray. In that arcane stance, that Eclipse and Vortex combo, we saw it do over half of Digtux's health.
Absolutely insane the damage that it comes out of Merlin right now, which is why I think Carleton are trying to specifically get the Merlin. Merlin right now has Soul Reaver, he's got a Spear of the Magus, he's got an Ob Shard, he's got 3 pin items with the Divine Ruin to stop healing, and he also is able to get a little bit of lifesteal himself with the Pythax piece. And if you take a look at the Ethereal Staff is going to steal health and mana from any character who walks into that Blizzard, or even the Vortex. So that's a lot of health that can be stolen and given to Merlin right now. So really, Carleton has to be really looking to kill Zero God right now.
There's no way they're just letting this happen again. A second Fire Giant going the way of Carleton with no stopping from Georgia State. No one's walking up. No one's even batting an eye towards this Fire Giant. So it'll be another objective going the way of Carleton. Their second Fire Giant of the game. I don't know. I was looking at the wrong screen there. I was looking at the Furies. I'm like, dang, you're going to get a 4th Fire Giant. I didn't think they'd be going that fast at it. But their second Fire Giant, their enhanced Fire Giant as well. Back around their waist, looking at this right side Phoenix and pushing those waves up as they go. You saw Fixtron had left the fray to make sure that mid lane continues to be pushed up. With this right side, they're grouping up 3 players right, 2 players mid.
And this is going to be the fight that could decide a game right now. If you take a look at the builds, everything seems to be more focused towards this right side as the fight does start. Lots of damage coming out from Digtux, but he's able to dash away. But look at this, Doug is now really low because of that dash right there onto Tornby dashing him. Now Doug's going to have to back away for right now.
David also taking quite a bit of poke, but thanks to the Soul Leader, able to heal themselves back up, keep themselves alive and sustained through. Dawn going to come right back through, and David, well, under a quarter HP now, will have to back off. Reese is in with the Fire Giant, basically, with the Whirlwind. Not going to grab anybody, just going to get the Purification Beads, but big damage out of the Vulcan. Dharmic Pillars draw through the Fatal Strike as well. Avant into the backline is going to force Digtux out of the fight. Strongest War God's going to get Tornby, who stayed too long under the Phoenix. The ultimate out of line time, not going to find a home. Strongest War God picks up a double kill. The second one onto Fixtron. The meatball is good, but Digtux getting so low. He gets expended. The not enough for him as Dawn grabs him with a few more basics.
The chase is still going to be on right now as Dawn's going to go ahead. Doug's going gonna go. David's gonna go ahead and blink. Excuse me. As the volcanic surge gonna use, but strongest war god doesn't care. As Lime Time's gonna be able to pick up Zoogod, the main target that Carleton have been wanting. And now look at this. Lime Time's trying to run for his life right now, but everybody is gonna try to go on the pillar to slow him as it keeps going to backfire just to get some more speed. Leaves coming around, the pillar missing, but look at that perfectly timed Aegis. Lime God is gonna be able to stay alive for just a little bit longer, but strongest war god picking up the deicide for Georgia State University. And this could be a run it right down right side. Look at all those death timers. Only Torby's going to be up by the time maybe Fixtrion when they get to the Phoenix. This could be a Phoenix right now, especially with basically looking like he's got an Emperor's armor to slow down the tower damage and Phoenix damage. This could be a big win for Georgia State.
Unfortunately, with how low their health bars are and how slow the time and how quickly the timers are coming back up for Carleton, they're only going to get that right side tier 2 tower. But that's going to open it up to the Phoenix on that side, and 2 towers left on the table for Carleton. A very scattered fight out of the Ravens that time around, and if they would have been able to group themselves a little quicker and David not get so heavily poked out before the fight really even started, they would have been able to maybe get something off of that. But so much aggression out of Torby under the Phoenix, no real big support coming out of his carries on the back end. He takes an early spill for essentially nothing, alongside Fixtrion falling right after.
Yeah, Fixtrion and Torby just got caught into a really bad situation. What seemed to happen was that they got into the back line of the enemy team, and then the front line of Georgia State decided to turn and on them. So that was a 5v2 situation, and they started pushing them out of the Phoenix line to where then Carleton were just looking at him like, guys, we can't help you. We've got an Amaterasu that's kind of looking at us a little bit nasty too, also, as well as looking at you because she's sitting at the front of the Phoenix. So Carleton just got split up and they couldn't do too much about it. And once that split up happened, we saw time and time again what Georgia State does. They are very good and very potent at these team fights and being able to split up Carleton, and Carleton falling right into that trap time and time again.
We're hitting that time of the game, however, where 70 seconds is a very realistic respawn timer coming out of these players. One big death could spell the end of the game. Go Fury is on the platter here for Georgia State. Not really mattering at this stage. Almost everybody has sold their boots by this point, aside from just basically on this Xing Chen. He'll be able to get rid of those very shortly to pick up that elixir for himself if he so wishes. But other than that, everybody else entirely full build here. All relics maxed out, aside from strongest war god, who hasn't gotten his upgraded relics. We're how far into the game?
That's a little bit risky, folks. You want to make sure that you start upgrading your relics probably before you sell your boots, because that's only 1,000 gold, whereas the 1,500 gold when it comes out to the actual elixir of speed that you're able to get. So a little bit risky, but I think I see what strongest war god's saying. Why waste the gold right now when I can get a full item and also get an elixir of speed going, so that basically I have all my boots and I have 7 items online for me. Whereas if I die, I'm gonna die anyway. The Blink's gonna come in from the Amaterasu in the back line.
Gotta get the beats out of Lime Time and force Dig Tucks out as well. Both of the carries are out, but David sneaks around into the back and gets strongest war god. The Earthshaker goes through. That's gonna take down one. David pick up a double kill for himself. Levant getting low. Gonna drop down David, but Dig Tucks with the ult's gonna drop him down, basically on full retreat. The last man standing for Georgia State. He's gonna blink out, but with 4 strong pushing up this left side, it's not looking good here for Georgia State.
And Carleton just said, monkey see, monkey do. We can team fight just like you guys can at Georgia State, and they went and improved it. David was able to get into the back line, picking up 1, then a huge Earthbreaker from from Blind Time being able to pick up 1 and do enough damage so that David could get a second. That was a 3-for-1 trade ending up, and then it ended up being a 4-for-1 trade because of the amount of damage that Dig Tucks did to AVGL. Now this could just be a run it down to the Titan. These timers are long, baby. Let's go. Let's end this game, Carleton.
4 players left, but only 1 and 15 seconds till War God. With only the Phoenixes left, basically he's gonna grab Blind Time. Won't get him into the fountain. Not gonna get much. Earthshaker's back online, and the Titan is down. Carleton turns it around. It brings game number 2 to the Ravens.
What did I say at the beginning of this, J-Mac? I said that Carleton State played a very good game 1. If they could tighten up those screws a little bit in those team fights, they could win a game, maybe even 2, and possibly even take the set off of Georgia State. And just right there, I was proven correct.
And that's kind of just been the historical downfall of Carleton. Previously, in the last couple seasons we've seen them, it's been poor late game team fights, but they've really stepped it up with the adjustments to their roster, with the role swaps that they've been making. It seems that their team fighting has improved dramatically from what we saw the last time on the world stage. But this time coming around, they're able to bring themselves their game 2 victory over Georgia after a grueling 46 minutes.
And talk about a heavyweight fight, and what a great semifinals match that we're seeing right here between two of really good solid teams, Georgia State and Carleton. Georgia State obviously being known for their team fight, and Carleton obviously being known for their early game. Now we're seeing them both head to head right now, and Carleton just showed that an early team fight can possibly win you this game. But the thing is that Georgia State now have to play a little bit differently. They have to start realizing that, hey, we can't just dive into the back line like we have been. We have to play this a little bit more tactically. We have to respect Carleton a little bit more, especially in their early game.
With that, we're going to cut it to a bit of a break here as we get set up for game number 3. It is a best of 5 for those who are just tuning in. So there is still an option to go 3 more games. We're at least going to be getting 4 out of these ones. How's Georgia State going to answer to the Carleton Ravens roster this time around? Stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Gazing far into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, for you, for you, for you, for you, for
Welcome back. Game number 3. 46 minutes in game 2 there, Fuzzy. But Carleton able to bring it back and tie up this set. Which means we still have at least 2 more of them to go here in this best of 5. Georgia State now opting for first pick this time around, as Carleton Ravens sitting on the second. Do we see an adjustment in the picks and bans again this time?
I think we have to. I really think that the Hachi man in the last game with being able to just run around a little bit and do the amount of damage and the slow that he was able to do on the mounted archery was just absolutely nuts. But Georgia State is going to go ahead and like to ban out the Thor, which is interesting because again, Georgia State have first pick, so they could get one of these big gods. As to no surprise, Isis is going to get banned by Carleton.
I mean, you just got to ban the ISIS away, but this also leaves a lot of flexibility for Georgia State to do these more targeted or throwaway bans and leave something big up for themselves, because now Carleton has to make a decision. Do we do any kind of target bans this time, or do we have to stick with the safe bans to make sure that we don't give up anything too powerful over to this Georgia State side?
And I think Carleton are really kind of quaking in their boots right now because they got away with that last one by the skin of their teeth from a great team fight from David and basically a great Earthbreaker from the Vulcan. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Vulcan banned out of Georgia State because that was pretty impressive. But Persephone is going to go ahead and get banned because Georgia State don't want to deal with it, and they don't want Carleton to deal with it. And again, no surprise, Freya is just going to go ahead and get banned, especially reverted Freya, as we've said in the past.
I'm really surprised at how standard these bans have been. We haven't really seen the best of 5 meta shift bans that we normally see in games. Everybody's still just sticking to the basics on this one, making sure that they just don't give up the top picks as opposed to the comfort picks that we see out of some of these rosters and matchups here. The Ganesh going to be banned away. So not too surprising, honestly. I would say a little surprising seeing that basically is on the side, and he does love playing his Ganesh, but because they're first pick, they're not going to first pick a Ganesh. It's just not going to happen in this world.
No, they're not going to first pick a Ganesh, but they could third pick a Ganesh. And I think that's the worry that they're having right now is Georgia State's going to go ahead and lock the Achilles, but Carleton's still having flashbacks from that Hunbats in game 1, making sure that Hunbats does not see the light of day in Georgia State, because I'm pretty positive AVGL is one of the best Hunbats players I've seen, and Carleton realized that, and they're going to make sure that Georgia State does not get it.
Very curious that they're prioritizing the Achilles over the Amma. I felt that Don had a powerful Amma last game, but I guess they want to get Fixtrion off of a comfort god here and put him on something a little bit newer. But Carleton, they're going to take a page out of Georgia State's book, and this time they're going to pick up the On Her Merlin for themselves, but Georgia State's going to go right back to their basics and grab Avance Raven.
And Anvan's Robin was very, very good that last game. Just seemed to get caught out a little bit, just because I think the overhead kick was not as necessarily on a cooldown as much as possible, so that was taking a lot of damage from the rest of the Carleton Ravens, because once he was in a bad position, he was in a bad position, and he would use that Mystic Rush to dive in there. But basically, he's going to go right back to piloting that Horus, because Horus was so great in that first game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to stick to that Horus on basically.
It worked out so well for them. He was able to play super aggressive with it. Those Blink Fractures were setting up a lot of early kills for his team and able to keep supplementing them into the later stages. The Fafnir, a little strange to see him come out so early, but not surprising, as you do have the Merlin and the On Her. While typically you see the Fafnir with the more double hunter style comp, Merlin has a ton of tick damage that is going to apply that coerce debuff and that extra coerce bonus damage to it. So really no surprise seeing Fafnir picked up with these two gods.
Not only that, but it also could counter the Horus a little bit. While Horus is trying to dash into a wave into your team to stun someone and to get off that fracture, you could just throw a hammer. If he's trying to run away, you can just throw a hammer. And Carleton electing to go ahead and banning the Poseidon, which would have been interesting to have for them, but seeing that they have a Merlin and an On Her, probably the On Her running in the mid lane and Merlin going to be in the dual lane, is really the Poseidon is what's going to counter both of those, including the Fafnir, because every single one of them have a getaway. As Jormungandr is getting banned right now for Carleton, or for Georgia State, excuse me.
That was kind of the more surprising, seeing that the Yorm made it through as opposed to Fafnir. I would have really thought that Carleton would have picked that one up for their solo laner, but instead wanted to get their support onto something comfortable here. So instead, the World Serpent going to be taken off the table along with the Poseidon. We've seen this typically happen in these second ban phases. Worked really well against all three. In fact, Poseidon is one of the better counter matchups against that Fafnir because of the Whirlpool immediately after the Draconic transformation. And Morrigan, very surprising to see Morrigan banned away here. Not a typical ban that would come from either of these two teams.
Yeah, the Morrigan is very potent just specifically because if you think about it, you can have two Merlins on Carleton, or you can have a Merlin on Georgia State, and that's really, really deadly. The Amaterasu ban this late is also surprising because, as you were saying, the Fafnir could have been possibly made it through, but now they're looking to get King Arthur available. King Arthur being able to dash with autos. All of his abilities, except for his one, is able to basically move him. So making sure that all of that is going to be able to keep that crippling effect away from the King Arthur. I think the Poseidon ban was very good, and the Fafnir pickup was even better because now King Arthur can just get a target out of the way, and Fafnir can turn into a dragon and plop the dragon right on top of the King Arthur target.
Speaking of maybe not a dragon, but another serpent picked up here, the Kukulkan, and the Kronos for the carry on the side of Georgia State. A lot of damage. We finally get to see the old feathered serpent himself make his way back onto the battleground into the collegiate scene. We saw how potent he was at the world stage, but let's see how our college players can pilot him this time around. Still waiting for Carleton's final pickup here. It's going to be Kali.
Hear me out. The coerce on the Kali, when she hits level 20 on a specific target, is going to be able to wipe out all of Georgia State. So I think the idea of it is thinking about, like, because the Merlin having to coerce, you've got all that tick damage being able to apply to it. With the on her, you've got obviously the auto attacks. Kali, you've got the auto attacks and tick damage on top of that. So and the whenever Kali stuns her target, it actually gives them more penetration. So being able to do that, I think the Kali is a good pickup. But Carleton are really playing for that late game, and that's not to their strength. You kept saying that Carleton, and we've seen Carleton keep getting this early game pressure, and that's what they need. So I think the Kali was more of a pickup against the Kronos, because Kronos is another one of those old hyper carry characters that were around for a while.
Minions have spawned.
To me, it just doesn't really scream a David God. If you want something that can kind of carry through the early game into the late game, typically we see things like his Dodgy, his Ket, even a Mercury, but this Kali is it doesn't feel like a David God necessarily. I do agree that it might have just been kind of to answer to this Kronos, but it's going to be a long roll for this Kali to get online. Basically going to be met with two players here, and not sure if he's going to be able to make it out. He's going to get the knockup of the updraft. You can always turn around and fire the slow, which you will on a fixed draw, and keeping this King Arthur busy, allowing Dawn to get as much farm as he can in this lane on his own. That's going to leave him alone now with David, as David's trying to clear this wave out. I'm not sure who got the speed buff on that. It looks like it was David able to pick that one up. So basically unable to successfully steal the buff away.
And basically right now is just trying to make sure that he follows David right now, because Kali is really, really not the greatest character to have at level 1. But that blink, and another blink coming out as Torby's going to go ahead and throw a hammer out. But, you know, blink for blink, nothing crazy, as the updraft and the slow is going to follow Tornby. But now Tornby looks like he might be in a little bit bad position, but, you know, War God decided to go help out AVGL on these right side mid camps.
Well, Strongest War God going to go right back to base quickly and pick up those cooldown boots. As you saw, he only started with the boots 2 for himself. Now he's going to get that extra 250 mana and the cooldown reduction. Most importantly, that mana going to supplement the Kukulkan passive. Something that we talk about time and time again when this god is picked up, is to always double dip that passive if you can. Now, you don't have to build purely into mana, because it's not always the best route to go, although I do love seeing the Quadra-Book library build. It's a lot of fun, but not super viable to run in every single game. Basically, taking a lot of damage from the Radiate. The Blizzard will drop down, needs the Frostbolt, but luckily for him, War God steps in the wings of it. Don't think basically would have died from it, but a good body block from Strongest. He's basically alive.
And that's just good teamwork that we're seeing out of Georgia State right there. Realizing that basically couldn't possibly not have died, but it's better to play it safe than sorry in that case, because if you got Kali a kill because the Lacerate was used, that would have been absolutely insane, because Kali with a kill is just, that just starts the snowball.
Zool on this Kronos. It's like a rotation out of Carleton as they want to try and get this Kronos with only a purification beads. David gonna try and go in, but no blink. A dash in and a big stun. The beads out of him. The triple stun comes through, but it's not gonna be enough as Zool is just on full retreat. David trying to catch him. They've wasted all their CC to try and stop him now. He's just buying as much time as he can, and he might be able to get out of this. No blink available for the Kali. Just waiting for the jump. A good hammer. There's the jump into the last. But the blinking from Avant's going to turn it around. And David will fall this time for the first time in the set. Georgia State gets first blood.
And that was just an unfortunate play for Carleton right there, because what they were trying to do is get the beads out of the Chronos. But what ended up happening is they used all of their CC at the exact same time rather than coordinating it. As you saw the hammer get thrown, then the push, and then the actual Kali stun right there is what got thrown as well. All in within the span of the beads being used. So that CC immunity is keeping just Zuo God alive that entire time, and then Amon-Gade realizing, hey, my carry's low and he might die if I don't get over there, so I'm going to go ahead and get some kills while I'm here.
And a great turnaround kill for Avant, getting first blood for his team as opposed to Zuo being first blood. And as you said, literally every form of CC they had used at one exact moment. It was literally stun, immediate impale, followed by the circle stun out of Kali. And one purification beads is all that was needed for Zuo. Didn't even have ultimate at the time to rewind all of that. If he could have gotten a rewind off in the middle of that, could have possibly turned around and gotten something for himself. A big play out of Zuo, and even bigger play out of Avant to make sure that he can keep his dual lane alive.
Absolutely, as now we're starting to see the level 5 start creeping in. Look at Strongest War God. Now he's level 5. He's got a level lead against Line Time right now. As he's going to go ahead and start building that Book of Thoth, it seems like, because as you were saying, the Kukulkan passive passing with mana, and as you said, you like seeing the library build. I like seeing the library build. I don't think anybody doesn't like seeing the library build with a Kukulkan, with a Polynomicon, and a Soul Reaver, and a Book of the Dead. Just kind of disgusting. But you definitely want to have some penetration earlier on, like the Sphere of the Magus, because that procs from the Whirlwind, and then you could just spit on them and get an easy kill. So now we're starting to look at a little bit dangerous for Strongest War God, because if he starts rotating into these fights, look for the Serpent of the Nine Winds to come out and do crazy amounts of damage.
Book of Thoth, one of those core items on a Kukulkan. It's not very often that an item sticks with a specific god for as long as Book of Thoth has. It's one of those items where I don't say too often that you have to build X item on Y god. But Kukulkan, you have to build Book of Thoth on him, or you're just flat out playing him wrong. And I'm not going to even say that's an opinion, that's a fact.
That is an absolute fact, because Book of Thoth not only gives so much power, but once it's an evolved Book of Thoth, when it has all of its stacks, you just get more power. And because of the Kukulkan passive, with the more mana that you have, the more power you have, it just becomes an absolute must. So Book of Thoth is definitely something that everybody's going to look at. So Sphere of the Nine Winds is going to be used. Avant-Gade did miss the Blink stun, so that was a lot of stuff used for Georgia State, and not a lot of return out of it.
I like the idea of the trust that came out of that. War God, knowing that Avant has the prowess, says, okay, you know what you're going to do. I'm going to throw this ahead of time, but just a little off the mark as Avant. He misses that root, and War God's not able to connect with that ultimate, especially because David didn't have his jump any longer. Used that to get into the mid lane. Wouldn't have been able to blink if he got hit with that root either, so it could have been a potential big kill coming out for them. But sometimes the tiny little misplays happen. This time Georgia State not able to net that kill. Instead, they'll just go back to their farm game. War God just waiting for that Book of Thoth. Waiting for the gold to pick that one up. To jump in. The stun miss for Stormby.
It is a lot of gold, that Book of Thoth. It's 1350 at this point. So I think he should have enough right about now to be able to get that Book of Thoth. If not, he's just going to go ahead and get some wards. Make sure that he's going to be playing safe, because Kukulkan has to play safe in this early game. Once he is able to get that Book of Thoth online with a penetration item, it becomes a lot easier. As look at this, Dong is able to get Fixtrion into that execute threshold, but doesn't use it.
We saw this a few times during a lot of the competitive and higher end play, where you would think that a god like King Arthur would get the advantage over the Achilles, but Achilles has been shown time and time again that he is the true lane bully, able to stop a lot of Fixtrion's damage, able to stop the Beyblade out. Dawn's going to go under the tower, and the Mystic Rush over just for style points on Avant. More than anything saying, hey, you got this. All right, well, then I'm just going to leave. A big solo kill here for Dawn onto this Achilles.
And that's absolutely right. It was style points, because Avant-Gade literally was probably yelling at him, going, if you miss it, I'm here to get the kill. So it was making sure that that Dong right there was able to secure that kill, because if Avant-Gade ended up getting that kill, that's not style. You know, that would have been a 2-0 Robin rather than a 1-0 Robin. So you really want to make sure that Achilles, who has now got a 2-level lead right now on the King Arthur, is going to be potent, and now he is, because now he's got some gold difference there as well.
Basically gonna get stunned by the hammer, but a quick protector surge will get him back to the minions. Jump out of Tornby, off the mark, the rune from Avant, and the immediate turnaround. Through the skies goes Tornby, and onto the ground he lands. Onto Tornby, my apologies. Basically, gets a little bit of poke off, but not enough to secure a kill onto Tornby. A lot of ults expended, but with no gain.
I think what they were looking for is for the strongest war god to make sure that he could get his Serpent of the Nine Winds off, but everybody realized that Kali was on the Serpent, and that is something you do not want, because I assure you that Kali right now has the target specifically placed on war god, because that reset from the Kali passive is going to be absolutely insane, because that could have turned around easily for a triple kill right there for the Kali, making Carleton really far ahead.
Fixtrion taking a ton of poke from Dawn. Now 2 levels down in the solo lane. But Dawn a little bit low himself. Needs to be careful of potential rotation with no mana on the side of Fixtrion. He's forced to sit under this tower. Avant gonna rotate over and drop this Totem of Coup, or maybe just bypass it entirely and steal away this blue buff, keeping this King Arthur further and further behind.
And not only that, but he does have the Mystic Rush available, as it does look like he's going to line up for it. Dong is calling for it. There is the Mystic Rush. He is going to go ahead and try to get the root off. The shield's going to go ahead and stun the King Arthur. And then Dong's going to be able to get another kill. That's another assist right there for AVGL. And now this lane just becomes free win for the Achilles.
I like the overhead kick. It's going to immune the damage so the Glad Shield doesn't proc there. It wouldn't have been enough to save Fixtrion's life, but a great little tiny play. Not sure which of the dashes that was going to come out of that god, so making sure to get that immunity and end up finishing off that kill onto Fixtrion. Keeping this King Arthur down, one of their more important factors, as we've seen in the pro scene, he can basically 1v3 to 1v4 teams, basically going to try and come in. The Fracture going to be jumped over by Digtux, and an Impale thrown behind him on the 180 just as a safety precaution. But he'll be able to get out, no relics expended.
Yeah, and right now there are 4 people for this Gold Fury side. It looks like they're going to just go ahead and farm up. They could have looked to sneak a Gold Fury right there, because King Arthur was on the other side, the overhead smash, but this is a big fight right. This could be a big fight right here, as a lot of things are being used, but they're just going to go ahead and disengage, because everybody knows that AVGL can easily heal up with Ravana passive.
Basically, with that Protector Surge, making sure to keep his teammates topped off on health. That was something that we saw in that very first game, where he almost out-healed a Hell because of how much anti-heal they had built against it. But this time around, no anti-heal necessary, although I do still like to see a little bit of it when you're going against gods like this. If any lifesteal is built out of War God, you have Dawn as well on the Achilles, Suo God with his own lifesteal that he is opting into here with the Bancrofts and with the Accelerate. He can also give himself a little bit of health if necessary. For now, Carleton sitting down 3-0 to Georgia State, and about 1,000 or so gold in Georgia State's favor.
And right now, Georgia State are playing for the late game. They have a Chronos. Latest game, one of the later game characters you have, because his passive is the more time that has passed, the more damage that he does. You have a Kukulkan, who the more mana that he has, which comes from items and levels, the more potent he gets. But this is now a really big initiate on this on AVGL right now to keep secure this blue buff, as they were able to finally get it Fixtrion, but now Dong is in a really bad position. Mission Rex will go ahead and be used, but Serpent of the Nine Winds, as Dong's going to go ahead and get Fixtrion, as the Whirlwind is doing so much damage right now to Tornby, but Tornby is going to go ahead and pick up AVGL. Right now, Kali is going to go ahead and ult. She's trying to get the reset, she does get the reset. Yeah, the strongest Lord God is going to fall, but Tornby's now in a really bad position, as Dong is going to be able to hit Tornby. Huge fight right there. Georgia State getting 2 for 2 right there, but AVGL and strongest Ward God falling for the solo laner and support for Carleton Ravens.
2-2, a big trade out there, and Carleton need those 2 kills for themselves. Would have been greater for them if they didn't lose quite a few. The rewind out of Suo, gonna make sure to immune everything that Digtux put out onto the Chronos. And now the tower under siege by Zuo, not gonna do too much to it. Jump in from the on her. Digtux now gonna throw out the spears, but only a couple of them are going to hit onto Zuo. Great juke boots out of the Chronos. Make sure to go through for the blink stun in. Purification beads immediately turns around with a big stun. But the last damage, it's just too much. The last tick is able to get Zuo.
Right now, that lash is just absolutely just incredible tick damage. Kali is now a big boy. Even though that he's only level 12, he's 2 levels ahead of AVGL on the Ravana. This is spelling disaster right now for Georgia State, because Carleton could take this, because Kali is a hard carry counter.
Big execute out of Don's gonna take down Digtux, and he used it again, but this time to get out, as basically gets a nice setup for the solo laner to get the execute off. Now Don just gonna jab Torby with the spear as the Gold Fury is taken by Georgia State. A great bait out of the two frontliners, keeping 3 players at the backside of their own jungle.
That was a good call from Georgia State. Great heads-up call. Spear to the 9 Winds was used for that last damage, because if Dong was able to pull them towards the Gold Fury, that could have spelled disaster for Georgia State. But able to secure the Gold Fury, they're now a 3k gold up, as Dong is now back with that 2-level lead, and is just going to fix on Fixtrion.
Fixtrion gonna take about a third of his health there. With those 2 levels down, it's putting the King Arthur in a really rough spot, and looking for a Void Shield for his next item for a little bit of extra tankiness and penetration for his team. Try and supplement that Kali and the on her. We can get into the middle of the fray. While on the flip side, we do see the Blackthorn Hammer picked up by Dawn, giving him a lot of extra health and a little bit of power and cooldown reduction as well. Making sure he can spam those abilities and supplement the extra out of that Glad Shield.
And I like that he went Blackthorn Hammer here, specifically for that cooldown reduction for the shield, and especially for the Radiant Glory if he is able to get low, because of how Radiant Glory works, where with Radiant Glory is procced, if you use Combat Dodge or the Achilles Shield, then you're able to do a little bit more health to your pull, so that cooldown is going to be very helpful. But Blackthorn also did get a little bit of a nerf, specifically when it came to the amount of gold it was. So getting the Blackthorn is just showing how far ahead this Achilles is compared to the King Arthur. Now almost looking at around 3 levels, but still 2 right now.
Pyromancer will be made of quick work by Georgia State as it's the second objective for them. But can we talk about just how efficient Blackthorn is and how good of an item that thing really is? Even if it is the 2250 gold, you get 350 health, 200 mana, power on top. I think it was 35 power on top of it, and you get the 10% cooldown reduction. Such a cost-efficient item, and works so well to double dip with that Gladiator Shield.
You're absolutely right. It is a cost-efficient item, and what makes it even more potent is once you get past a certain level of mana, you get mana regen on that as well. So that mana regen on Achilles, if Achilles gets a blue buff stolen because he's in a fight somewhere else, is going to be very, very strong, because Achilles, much like King Arthur, is mana dependent, but King Arthur went for the Void Shield first, might even elect not to go into the Blackthorn.
Might be a little bit too late to go into it, as we do see the Void Shield completed on the side of Dawn. That shows the lead. 6-0 on this Achilles, might I add to this. 6 out of the 7 kills in this Georgia State game have been on the solo laner. The person who's supposed to see the least action for the early part of the game has been getting the most kills for his team.
And that's just going to be a testament to Georgia State's team fight. He has not only been able to get a couple of kills in that solo lane side onto Fixtrion because of Mystic Rush being able to be used by Avant-Garde over the wall to secure some stuff, but then he started rotating more and was able to get not only 3 but 4 kills on these rotations, and that is just going to be absolutely massive when he comes around, because he's level 16 now. Now he can start freely rotating, because not only he's level 16, his tower is down, and the other enemy solo laner tower is down now as well. This is going to be a big fight right here for basically engaging right now.
Coming through with the ultimate. It's not even really necessary, as Digtux is already dead, just rotating the rest of the team to that left side of the map with the Fury down. There's really not much to gain off it. They could go this tier 1 tower, as Dawn has made a rotation all the way on the top side, zoning Torby out. Tier 1 tower left alone to the devices of Zul'God on the Chronos will fall very quickly. And no response back from Carleton anywhere, really, as it looks like a collapse here in the mid lane. Dawn taking up the tower to go on to Lime Time. Avant goes through, but he's going to take the King Arthur ultimate. You're going to miss time that Serpent of the 9 Winds on both accounts. Fixtrion not going to get executed out by Dawn under the tower. In fact, everybody else is getting low in Lime Time with the Vortex. We'll be able to pick up Avant.
What a great play by Lime Time, and what a calm head that everybody had over there. Dong is still going to be able to pick up, but look at this. David is now pretty low over there as well. He's had to ult away to make sure that the damage is done, but look at the Thorns coming out as Excalibur is going to go ahead and be used. Look at the amount of CC that's taking on the Fixtrion right now. But Strongest War God is a little bit in the pickle right now.
Gonna drop the Tornado down, and that'll keep Fixtrion from continuing forward. The Ice Bolt out will be good, but not enough damage, and Dawn will return fire onto Lime. Now Fixtrion turned back around. Double kill for the Dawnster himself. Make that, what now, 9 kills, I believe, on this Achilles?
Yeah, he had an unofficial triple in that mid lane. He started the fight off with a kill, and then he was able to push the on her actually out of the fight. And then Lifetime died to him. Excuse me, Lifetime died, and then Fixtrion and Lifetime just got blown up by Dong. So Dong is now 9-0-0, level 18 at 18 minutes in the game. When you want a perfect solo lane game, you need to come back and watch this game, because if he's level 19 at 19 minutes in the game, this could spell disaster for Carleton.
Primal Fury has spawned. Only Tornby in the area on the side of Carleton. Digtux making the rotation as Dawn and War God continue to put pressure onto the Fury. Down very low at the moment. Also still available that will be used to secure the Primal Fury. Now forced to retreat out of Carleton. Blinking from basically. He's going to get the updraft onto Digtux. But that's about it from it, as the Impale is going to send him right into the back. Dawn blinks in, gets the stun onto Fixtrion, but continues the pressure onto Digtux. But with a great Vortex, is going to put Dawn back on the back foot. But Fixtrion thrown into the Impale, thrown into the pillar. He's going to take so much poke through the skies. Comes the rest of the team. Stun in from basically. Digtux taking so much. Fixtrion so low. Avant going to get knocked up, trying to get those last hits, but Fix just will not fall.
Zoogod is able to pick up a double kill in the back onto Tornby and to Digtux. The blink hit from AVGL as Fixtrion's going to get stunned out of existence, and Strongest War God's going to pick up Fixtrion. Lifetime is the only one left right now, along with David. Lifetime trying to flicker away to try to run as fast as he possibly can, but he's leading the team to a Fire Giant. Is he going to possibly try to do some stuff as Lifetime is trying to get the back off? Doesn't seem to be like he maybe might even look for a Fire Giant steal, but no, Lifetime's going to go ahead and back as the Whirlwind is going to go ahead and drop on the Fire Giant. Fire Giant will start to get pulled now on Georgia State.
Purify that Serpent of 9 wins, not even necessary, but just in case, we'll make sure to grab that one for their team. Another big objective on the board for Georgia State as they grab a Pyromancer to boot. Big swing for them. Looked like Fixtrion was going to make his way out, but stuck around just a little too long, unable to get back to the base, and they lose 3 players in that fight. Georgia State now 14 kills on the board, and instead of getting 3 kills this time, Dawn getting 3 assists in the fight. Now 9-0-3.
Just shows you how efficient Dawn is playing right now. Now, granted, he's not level 20 at 20 minutes in the game, but there is still about 40 seconds for him to fix that problem. But what's so great right now is how efficient he's playing. If he gets the level 20 lead, he is 5 levels up and maxed out completely. His build is almost done. He still has to sell the Glad Shield, and he still has to sell the Warrior's Blessing, yes. But he is already a tanky monster who could possibly even look for more damage because he's staying alive in these fights, specifically because of Radiant Glory and the Shield Bash.
4 strong pushing up the mid lane, and Zuo nowhere near the rest of the team, but they're not too worried as they'll be able to start working on this tier 2 tower in the mid. Only that right tier 2 will be left standing, and then it'll just be all Phoenixes from there. And you can see Avant's already made his quick rotation through Zuo, making sure to push that wave forward so they have the minion advantage to continue through.
And this right now is a safe call from Georgia State. Make sure they get the tier 2 in mid. Make sure they get the tier 2 in right. Once they get that tier 2 in right, they're possibly going to try to look for maybe a Phoenix Siege. But now they're looking for... They have the level lead right now, especially with Dong level 20 now. They have a massive level lead and a massive gold lead. Looking at around, 14k gold at 21 minutes in the game is pretty gnarly. So this push right here could spell disaster for Carleton if one person falls. But Carleton have been known, like we saw last game, to extend team fights a little bit. If they can extend these team fights into their base and, if maybe Phoenix stays alive, that could turn it around and they could claw their way back into this game.
I'm glad I'm not the only person who still says gnarly in the year 2019.
Hey, it's a boomer thing, right?
It must be a boomer thing. It must be. That's got to be the only reason.
It's us 90s kids that we have to deal with, Both of us 26 right there, but here comes the Phoenix Siege as the Whirlwind is going to go ahead and get dropped to clear those minions, and now it looks like they're just going to wait for minions to get pushed up in the mid lane and in the right lane, making sure that everything is situated for this team fight.
3-2 split from both sides, making sure to keep solo laner and jungler alongside each other on this mid lane. The sun comes through out of Dawn, putting a lot of damage onto Victory on Avant, not taking too much poke of his own. Dawn not even really getting tickled by this tower. Double stun out of the King Arthur's gonna be big, but Torby gonna get knocked out. His strongest War God gets him with one final basic. 7-9 wins is not enough, but Avant is unable to make it out of the fight. The ult in from the Horus. They're gonna be able to pick up David with a big Zephyr out of it. Double kill for the mid laner and one kill for basically on the Horus. Phoenix, now with the minions in it, exposed for Georgia State to push it down, and they will do so very quickly.
As the stun for the shield pass right there onto Dug Tux is not going to be able to do enough damage, but Zero God has minions pushed up on the left side Phoenix, as that Phoenix will now fall. This is a 4v2 situation. They could look to end this right now, Georgia State, as everything's starting to get ready for it, as the pillar is going to go ahead and be used. The Impale just barely off target, but look who's back up is big old Tornby, but his ultimate is down. He cannot transform into that dragon just yet for another 30 seconds, as a big hammer onto Dong is going to be able to be used, but you know, Dong's at half health, he's going to have to back out, and the Fire Giant looks like it's going to fade away in about 10 seconds.
With that, they're going to just back off, clear out the jungle, make sure to strip that one from them. They're waiting for that red buff to come back through. You can see Zuo is eagerly awaiting for the spawn of it. War God will just make sure to drop the tornado for him to get that extra kill through it. But now with the Oni Fury back up and 2 Phoenixes down, that's going to spawn the Oni Fire minions in favor of Georgia State in that left and mid side, which means that it's going to be very, very difficult for Carleton to even make an attempt to stop this Fire Giant the next time around.
And that's exactly how you want to play it. You want to get the furthest lane from the Fire Giant down on the Phoenix as quickly as possible. If you can get that Phoenix side down, you're able to secure all of the right side, because Fire Minions do a lot of damage onto Titan. I don't know if you guys realize this, especially Oni Fire Minions doing a lot of damage on the Titan. So the Titan could fall if they aren't paying attention right now for Carleton. So this Fire Giant is absolutely free for Georgia State.
Avant pushing up the right side so that way they can keep the minions on the opposite side of the map, making sure to keep their advantage. You can see split 2 players on the left-hand side with the Fire Giant respawn, 3 up the mid lane, and 5 for Georgia State over by this Fire Giant. Duo and Dawn, the first 2 on top of it. Now all 5 will collapse and make sure to make quick work of the big baddie himself. Fire Giant will fall, second one of the game for Georgia State. And the right side with the Phoenix exposed and the minions pushed so far forward, Georgia State can make full rotation to try and drop down this last bird.
And now they have actually some Oni, they have some Oni archers and a little bit of front Oni waves as well. As the Leaks go ahead and come in, as Dux is actually really weak, but Dong is gonna be able to kill Dux as Kali is in the back, but Kali is about to die to take damage as it does. The strongest Ward got able to pick up the Kali, and everybody now is gone. Dick-Tuck's dying to the Achilles in the back, Victorion dying to just basically all the damage from strongest Ward.
Tornby just getting handled on that transformation. The downside of that Fafnir is all that while you're ready for the setup on the bottom side, and Georgia State clean shot and take game number 3 against Carleton Ravens. A very decisive victory, looking much more like their game 1 performance.
And that's what they needed to do. They needed to take a step back, especially after game 2. With game 2, them losing after a long lane, they're realizing that we have to end these games sooner. And I think that's what they were playing with. Let's play it a little bit safer and let's end the game sooner, especially when we have a lead. And they had a lead, especially Dong having the lead at the very end of that. Dong just carrying the game for them on his back.
I mean, 9-0 at one point of the game, ending out 10-0-6 as the solo lane Achilles, a true hard carry for their team, pushing them through that entire early game and into the late game stages, out damaging everybody on the map. Even Lime Time on that Merlin not able to get enough damage for them and keeping Fixtrion at bay. This King Arthur kept under wraps and the carries unable to come online. Georgia State with a fantastic game 3 are able to peel themselves off another win, moving themselves up 2-1 in this best of 5. Only 1 game left stops them from moving into the grand finals. So as they wait who their opposition would be, Carleton Ravens still have another shot at this. They're on the back foot. But moving into game 4, a lot's going to have to be adjusted for them if they want to keep this alive to take it to game 5. We'll be back in just a few minutes with your chance to see game 4.
ain't no stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Shooting stars. Didn't even get to bronze. I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass. Looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I'd be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get to glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. We aren't hating because you aren't. Shining like it's neon. Rock like kings of Leon. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, them amateurs have to leave. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, them amateurs have to leave. Yeah, shooting. Yeah, shooting. Yeah, shooting. Yeah, shooting shots.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's game number 4, and after a hard loss in game 3, Carleton elects to take first pick. Moving into the picks and bans, my name is J-Max. Still with me here on the call, Fuzzy and Hoonbots. They have first pick, and they are still scared of this god.
Why wouldn't you be scared of it? As I said, AVGL has probably the best Hunbots I have ever seen. It is absolutely disgusting, and the team fight presence that he brings is even more disgusting. Hunbots is a great character no matter what. Usually you want to see him banned in the second phase, especially in this comp level, but AVGL, he can religiously go back to this Hunbots and continue to win. But the Ganesha ban coming out for Georgia State, and then that's the ban I was looking for, was basically on that Horus. He controlled the map. He was 1-0-14. He was just under the Achilles when it came out for kill participation. So basically, banning Horus is what needs to happen.
Making sure that Horus is off the table. It's kind of like the staple story that we saw out of Raffer in the Pro League, where Raffer is, in my opinion, one of, if not the best Horus players in the game. And the fact that he was allowed that god so many times, it's just mind-boggling more than anything. But alongside that, instead of giving the Achilles to their Fixturion like they had the first 2 games, Carleton are just going to outright ban it after the train wreck that was Dawn.
Oh, Dawn was just saying, choo-choo, and everybody get out of my way or you're going to die. Especially with the Fatal Strike hits, the actual shield bashes that he was hitting. He was just absolutely disgusting on that Achilles, and I don't think Fixturion could deal with anything right now that Dawn could possibly pull out. So look for Dawn to possibly pick something more for team fighting, maybe a Jormungandr, unless it gets banned, for that World Serpent rotation.
Ooh.
So, you could see him back. You could see him say, "Hey, I saw you run King Arthur Fixturion. Now it's my turn to run King Arthur."
There's a lot open here, and Carleton will elect for the Isis. The first time we get to see old Was make their way onto the match, but at least Persephone open as well. The question is, does Georgia State have a Persephone on their team, or are they just gonna let this one go?
It depends. The Silent War God is very, very good at some of these bursty mages, and even in some of those hunters on her. So Persephone could be picked, but remember when I said Jormungandr and I was talking about that? But look at Freya! Old revert Freya is now back into the hands, and this is going to be who can win, the early game Isis or the late game hyper carry Freya, who can two-shot any tank that you stand in your way.
We'd seen her banned so many times, and we always talk about Persephone. We don't often see Freya banned, but now she's being banned more, and lo and behold, who cares about Persephone? We have Freya and Jormungandr, who was an essential first ban out of almost every team moving into HRX, into the World Championships. And they got both of them on the side of Georgia State. This is looking rough already in just 2 picks for Carleton. Even though they got the Isis, I doubt they're going to pick the Persephone alongside of it. Putting double mage that don't have tower push potential would be very not wise for Carleton.
And not only that, the Freya, what's really interesting about Freya is her pulse and her irradiate actually use 2 auto attacks. So if she was to proc both of those onto Persephone's Bramble, that actually causes the ultimate to just die faster, because it only takes 6 shots, which is 3 shots for Freya. So Athena's going to go ahead and get locked in for that global pressure, trying to counter the Jormungandr's semi-global pressure with the World Serpent, which is exactly what was needed for Carleton.
They're stacking a lot of mitigations on top of each other as well, with the Defender of Olympus and the Circle of Protection both opting for that protection style. Somebody jump in the giant circle and try not to die as long as you can thing as well. And also the taunt to be able to set up the damage. With this Hachiman locked in, we might be seeing this Isis go into the mid lane, where we've been traditionally kind of seeing her go more towards that dual lane, thanks to players like Cyclone Spin, making that long lane Isis a little bit more popular.
Ho Yi mid is what I'm thinking. I think that's going to be a strongest War God in that Ho Yi mid, because you've got more places to bounce and you have more ability to clear in that mid lane as a Ho Yi. We're starting to wait for the first bans right now, but I'm still upset with the fact that Georgia State have Freya, as a little bit of respect comes out as Pele is going to go ahead and get banned from Georgia State, because David had a great Pele in game 2, and now they really want to make sure that Pele does not get into his hands.
It really did end up swinging the game in their favor in that very last team fight. Rotated in, blinked into the backline, got 2 players taken down because of it. It was able to swing it in their favor, and a respect ban here with the Robin, while not necessarily towards David, just making sure that they don't give that Robin away, because Robin is fairly potent against both Freya and Ho Yi. Akuma Karn and Susano will be the final bans here for Carleton, as Georgia State looks for their 4th pick.
And right now, I'm thinking for their 4th pick, they're going to look for something like a supporty. And, Serket support is pretty strong, but it's going to be interesting if it is a Serket support, because I don't think I've seen basically play a Serket support. And if he does play it, is he going to run it more like Polar Bear Mike with the upgraded Sunder? Or is he going to play it more like himself, where he's usually getting those blinks?
Still up in the air onto that one. It could also go into the hands of Avant, into the jungle. That does still have viability with it as well. That's the great flexibility that allows for Serket, is multiple playstyles within each role and multiple roles to play it into. But to answer with some more global pressure themselves, Ratatosker, and on the back fence, on their back foot, when nothing left in the gas tank, they look for the Kuzenbo to bring themselves to a potential game 5.
The Kuzenbo is exactly what's going to be great about this, because not only are the shell from the Kuzenbo Reflect going to be able to do a lot of damage onto Freya, the Ho Yi, the true damage from the Serket when she ticks if he pops it, the Jormungandr, now even the Erlong Shin. This is becoming more of a, I am Kuzenbo with Thorns, I will one-shot you with those abilities. So it's going to be pretty nutty to see when Kuzenbo is playing in the solo lane, if they're going to focus the Kuzenbo, or if the Kuzenbo is going to be able to make himself the focus of these attacks. And if he does, is he going to stay live long enough to make sure that he can get some damage done from those abilities?
An old throwback for the Carleton, bringing out this Kuzenbo in a do-or-die situation. Last time, it was at the World Championships in 2018, where Lime Time brought it out in the solo lane, but this time with Lime in the mid lane on that Isis. So not going to see the Isis long lane like we saw out of Cyclone Spin this time, seeing it more traditional where the mages are going. But basically on the Erlung Shen this time around, we didn't even really make mention of it because we were so fixated on seeing a Kuzenbo in an elimination game.
And basically still going to do the same thing that he's always done. Just look for the invade. Tornby right now is trying to see if it's spot out, but look at what the Ratatasker is doing. He's realized that, you know, basically he's always going to be on me. I might as well concede my speed buff, get their red buff, their purple, then go to my red and my purple, clear out that side of the farm. By the time that I'm done with that, then my speed buff should be spawned back up.
Basically, and his opposition have not done anything to the speed buff yet. They're kind of just sitting here staring at it, waiting for everything else to go through. All the while, David is getting his experience on that side. Tornby finally will spot him out. Basically, he's definitely going to have the better 1v1, and David picking up that red. Going to give him a lot of extra early damage, as he can opt for an... He does get that tier 2 Acorn, giving a little bit of extra power and movement speed, and they'll steal away that purple buff, keeping Zoogod on the back foot on this Freya. Now, this is old Freya, for those of you just now tuning in. This is the reverted Freya. This is not old, or new old Freya is a weird way to say it, but basically with no mobility. Gonna steal away that blue buff, somehow sneaking it between two players there, and getting himself out.
That was absolutely incredible that he was just dodging auto attacks. I think he was trying to look for the blink away, but then he realized, hey, there's a little corridor that I can sneak through right here, and was able to use that sneak away to make sure that he could get out without using his blink. So he still has a very potent relic for any of these engagements to be able to be used in these future engagements that are coming, especially onto Digtux, because if Digtux gets too far ahead of Zero God, it could spell disaster for a Freya until, of course, level 25, until, of course, minute 25. Then once minute 25 happens, then everything that I've said is thrown out the window and they just win.
With this Freya, put into the dual lane, boots one, the option form as opposed to any kind of extra sustain, either lifesteal or pen or a ring. They're just going to make sure to get the mobility on as early as possible. Very important. And Dawn going for an extremely early proxy on this Jormungandr. Only level 3, but he's trapped between now 3 players. Is Athena making the rotation over? He will be spotted out by the flurry out of David. Tornby only level 1, though, on this Athena. Not going to make too much of it, but with 3 players, there's no way he's going to get out of here. He's got to wrap back around towards the tower. No minions left. He's just going to delay them as long as he can. Delay them for quite a long time. First blood, one more time for Carleton.
And, you know, that was just the greediness right there of Dong. He went 10-0-6 in the last game, so he feels like he's on top of the world. And now he's like, oh, I can't feel like I'm on top of the world as a Jormungandr right now. Even though Jormungandr is definitely going to win against a Fixtron's Kuzenbo, the Kuzenbo is going to be able to push, and when he pushes, Jormungandr can't use any of that push basically because of his passive that keeps him inside, but it does more damage to him. So Fixtron could do a lot of damage because of the push and against the passive of the Jormungandr. So look for more rotations onto Dong right now.
A lot of poke onto Avant from just the Acorn Blast and the Flurry of Dawn. Still level 4 of the level. Despite that, another 4-man rotation over to try and get this Jorm. They will drop him. A good Spirit Ball out of Lime Time will hold him back in place, and Tornby picks up the final swing with the Reach passive. Dawn taking another spill, but still level 4, tied with Fixtron in experience at the moment.
And honestly, that's just because of the fact that Kuzenbo is very hard to clear the wave at the early stage of the game. What I find really impressive, though, is the fact that Kuzenbo has 14 Warrior's Blessing stacks onto the Jormungandr's 6. But this is a big fight right now. Basically could look to fall as the dash is going to go ahead and happen, and David's going to go ahead and pick up another kill for Carleton. That's 2 kills for the Ratatasker, and he's been a part of all 3 kills. David is looking like a force to be reckoned with in this game.
This is such greedy play coming out of Georgia State. They had a big win last game in just a little over 25 minutes and a game 1 victory in less than 25. They're just playing a little too heavy-handed this time around. They're trying to dip their hand into too many baskets, and every single one of them has come up with a piranha instead of a bunny rabbit. It's bitten them every single time.
It has, and now they're going to try to start playing a little bit more, I would say, conservatively. They still want to keep their foot on the gas pedal, because right now Carleton have to play a little bit still on the back foot. Even though they're 3 kills up, they're only up by about 600 gold. And that's right around, you know, a few, that's the first blood and maybe a few waves of minions. That's not a lot. And that's what's going to be the issue, is that Georgia State seems to be farming more efficiently than Carleton. And so these kills haven't really necessarily done the damage that Carleton wants them to do.
Dig and Zuo left alone on this left-hand side of the map to free farm, but Freya, not a god I would like to see free farm. I'd like to see a little bit more play out of David. He has that ultimate online, can make a quick rotation over and try and get some pressure onto Zuo, get those beads, maybe even get that Valkyrie's discretion out of him to make another rotation much easier for them. For now, I'm just going to leave these two long lane carries be.
It's a little scary because Freya, like we've said, is very much a hyper carry. Once she gets the boots on and she gets that, Blink's going to go ahead and happen on Strongest War Gods. The beats are going to come out. Wing Gust is going to happen, but basically stunned out right now because of the Ratatasker. Circle of Protection will go down as basically falls to Lime Time. That's the 4th kill for Carleton. And because Circle of Protection was used, they're not going to be able to get the Gold Fury off of that, but they will look to get some pressure in this mid lane.
Not quite sure I was a fan of that Cobra's Kiss, because I think that might have been enough to tip the scales in the favor of that Circle Protection getting the immediate kill onto basically. Likely would have already died from it, but I think that extra little bit of poke damage is what really tipped it to get that damage through. David now trying to get a kill on Zuo, but he walked over a ward. Zuo knows that someone's in the area. David's trying to back here. Avant, don't know if he spotted him out here. Will not grab him there. Will not be able to stop his back. And now Digtux has to be a little bit worried. No ward coverage. Playing very aggressive here up to Zuo. Zuo's going to ping him out and let Avant know exactly where he's at. The EI Jutsu going to go through the Cobra's Kiss on top, as well as the Last Breath Poison. But Digtux very healthy on the Hachiman. Is not too worried about that.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the mounted archery is still able to be used. Digtux could have possibly turned that around and gotten a kill onto AVGL, but he decided to play it a little bit safer because he knows that if the Freya was able to get the Valkyrie's Discretion online, that's going to be an easy kill because of how weak he was because of the Last Breath.
Dom, despite dying twice in the solo lane for his aggression, is still going to be the one coming out on top in experience. Level 8 to level 7 over this Kuzenbo. Finishing off both their cooldown boots. And starting up towards his defense and pen is Fixtrion. Going into what likely will be that Void Shield.
Yeah, that Void Stone is actually very, very potent item when it comes to that matchup because of it strips the magic protection, of the enemy that's in an area of effect. So with Kuzenbo, with his ultimate being able to be spin to win, much like Beyblade and King Arthur, spin to win in Thor, it does a lot of damage. And with that Void Stone stacked on top of that, they just can't deal with it, and that's exactly what Fixtrion needs to happen.
Dash into taunt in. If he a big spirit ball onto Strongest, he's going to get up into the air and out of the circle of protection. A very quick reaction out of the mid lane. Ho Yi will give himself a little bit of life on this end. It's been 2 ults to try and get something there. Or it's been just the 1 ult out of basically Avant still on cooldown from earlier. But both teams will get out. No players died.
Yeah, and that was great peel from basically. He was able to get a 3-man taunt after the Athena blink taunt to try to get Strongest War God. So him being able to taunt the Isis, the Ratatasker, and the Athena was just massive as right now, basically just going to get a lot of damage done. As this is a big fight coming out right now for both sides.
The Cosmos out of the Ratatasker goes down onto 2, but he's immediately going to dash out with Defender of Olympus. Top 2 big ults wasted out of the side of Carleton. Just to disengage the fight more than anything. No relics used, no ults used in response by Georgia State. Now with 2 of their big globals off the table, Georgia State can look to make an aggressive play.
And they just might. They know the cooldowns right now, especially with Lime Time's ultimate being able to be used here fairly soon. I think they're going to try to look for an aggressive play, possibly onto this middle lane. If they can pick out, Lime Time, or if they can pick out David because of the lack of ultimate now from Torn B for the damage mitigation, and David just be able to get out of these fights, they could look for a Gold Fury side. But then again, I'm surprised they didn't keep aggressing because AVGL was pretty weak in that fight. So through the Cosmos onto the AVGL and then the Athena on top of that with the Defender of Olympus ult would do a lot of damage and possibly could have gotten the Gold Fury for Carleton much earlier.
Basically, just walking right by Tormy as they go for a little bit of a ward scuffle on the top side of the mid camp. So ward dropped down. I'm not sure if it was within range of their sentry. Doesn't look like it was. Tormy unable to grab it. The Cobra's Kiss onto 2. The Suns dropped a little preemptively by War God onto them. A little bit of miscommunication out of the Georgia State mid-jungle combo.
Yeah, and that was an interesting communication glitch that happened right there, simply because the Cobra Kiss happened, and then I think what occurred is that Almond Gate said, "Oh crap, there's 3 of them. I can't deal with this," and then had to leave. So then dropping the Suns is a really big team fight, as now Strongest War God had to use his beads and his leap to get out of there.
Lime time. Now gonna have to use his purification beads and the ultimate as well. No healing will be through from them, and the Valkyrie's discretion from Zeus to be able to pick him up. Ultimate from Tormby is not gonna land on anybody, just himself. The flurry out from the Ratatosker, but David is on full retreat. Strongest War God very low, but look who's here, the big bad worm himself, and they'll be able to team up and drop down Strongest War God for a 3rd kill on the board for Georgia State.
And now Georgia State has around a 700 gold lead, and they're going to easily look for this Gold Fury, because that was a 3-for-0 right there for Georgia State, and that is huge. This will now give them about a 1,600 gold lead after they get this, and it's going to be pretty hard for Carleton to be able to bring this back.
3 big kills that Georgia State definitely needed after the earlier potential snowball that was starting to come out of Carleton. But again, the farm game from Georgia State has been so on point that even despite being down 5 kills, they were staying even, because that Gold Fury is not the only gold that has put them in their advantage. Those 3 kills on top of it have brought them up to even, and then the Gold Fury just to top it off.
And look who was a part of those 3 kills and got 2 of them. Zuo God as Freya. Freya now has a tier 2 ring available, possibly looking for a demonic grip, but could possibly look for a hastened ring to make sure that they can stay in these fights a little bit more. With the Bancroft's talent already full, this is starting to look like the Freya that's going to win Georgia State the game, and it's starting to look a little scary. David needs to start rotating onto this Freya and try to get her down as much as possible.
Freya's always been one of those gods who needs 3 items at least to consider her online, and it's always been Boots, Bancroft, Demonic. This was before Telkines and Hasten Ring were as big a factor as they are. This was in between the phases of Hasten Fatalis being removed from the game for all classes and this kind of transitional phase. Those 3 items have been so core on this god for so long and have always been the definitive mark of, okay, Freya's online. But 2 kills already on the Freya is a little bit scary, Carleton.
Yeah, and now Carleton are going to look for this Pyromancer, but they are going to have to pull off as the blink is going to happen. Last breath is going to fall onto Torn Baby. The Flinks are going to be able to do damage, but Song's War God is going to be able to pick it up. Serpent, the large World Serpent, is going to try to look for something, but it looks like he went to Fixtrion, as now they can start this Pyromancer without any real fear, except for now Through the Cosmos is being wind up.
David looking for a target. He's going to use his first leap. Second one's going to come straight down on top. Big damage onto basically. And Fixtrion with the Brave will be able to pick up the kill onto the enemy support. Strongest War God dashing out with that dive buff. The Defender of Olympus on top. Fixtrion and the support Torby team up to take down Dawn on the Yorm. And it's a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Carleton University.
And now Carleton are just going to try to get some pressure right here in this mid lane. But Lion Time's a little bit out of position.
No.
The Blink's going to go ahead and come in from Tomby, but Tommy's not going to be able to do anything as the Shield Bash is trying to get it, but the dash, but the auto will get it, as Torpy is going to be able to get it. As look at how much tower damage he was able to do, but my gosh, that Cobra's Kiss into the dash from Serket, doing so much damage right there, and just causing mass chaos.
Big kill coming for Georgia State to get another one in that fight, but then losing another one, this time to Tormby. 3, 2, and 4 on this Athena, coming in big in that last fight, making sure to help team up and take down Dawn, making sure to keep this Jormungandr under wraps. But the thing I keep coming back to is that this Jormungandr, despite 3 deaths on his name, is still farming more efficiently than Fixtrion on this Kuzenbone. They're coming out even in these trades. You don't want the Jormungandr to be even at this stage. You want him with 3 deaths to be behind.
Yeah, and what's interesting though is the Kuzenbo is playing more for the team fight. The Jormungandr is playing more for this, I'm going to get targets that are trying to run away. So I think what the plan is for Kuzenbo to try to get into the back line and try to get the World Serpent to ult onto him, because now the Jormungandr has an E-Staff and a Stone of Binding online, whereas the Kuzenbo has a Stone of Binding and a Void Stone. So he's going to be able to be a little bit tankier, as a taunt here right now is coming out, and the Suns will be dropped as well.
But everybody is getting themselves out, except for basically he's a little too far gone on this. David is looking for Strongest War God. The Aegis is going to be good for the time, but David will clean him up. The Defender of Olympus used just to keep David topped off with those extra protections. Avant and Dawn are here, 4 versus 2. Dawn putting a good amount of poke onto Torby with that bellowing roar. But now that Avant is in the rotation, he's already under half health just from getting stunned by that Spirit Ball. They're chasing him out. David on the tail end of Avant. Torby trying to run from Dawn. Zuo coming through. The Kappa is not going to find him. And Avant will make his way out.
The whoop from Zero God kept Avant alive right there. Sphinxtrion is still looking for him, trying to possibly get a Kappa bounce off, but is going to go ahead and get the back off as the circle protection will be used as Carleton are going to go ahead and get that Pyromancer, a big objective right there for them. Now, they're up by about 1,200 gold.
With that, Carleton with a 10-5 kill advantage. They finally brought themselves back into the lead with that gold. Looking at this mid-tier 1 tower, but not quite enough damage, hanging on by a thread. One little brick holding up the foundation of that tower to make sure it still stands tall. The Primal Fury has been started up here by Zuo. Torby, the first one here, looking to charge up that dash, and Avant looking to stop. The dash comes in, the reach is not going to be enough, and Georgia State will get the Primal Fury. Torby will be the downside, the downfall of Carleton as he gets blown up going into that Gold Fury pit. Georgia State with the objective, with the kill, will be on retreat.
And now, with that, basically was able to taunt the Athena out of that position. Tornby just not being able to do anything, but look at through the Cosmos being pushed as they look like they're going to try to go on War God right now as the beats are going to be extended. As Kuzenbo is just going to spin to win. The stun barely off the target, as basically he's just going to be able to get out of the way. But now that one brick is going to go ahead and fall as they get the tier 1 tower in the mid lane.
The downside of that Hou Yi, even though he had those purification a little too early, was unable to get out of the CC chain that followed after. The power of the Kuzenbo, the Watery Grave, makes it to where it's a constant tick of knock-up damage, pushing them back further and further. And it's always in the direction they're moving, but if they can't move and they're being pulled away from where they want to go, there's no way for them to escape. And now we see finally some fruition coming out of this Carleton Ravens. They lost that objective, but they get a good follow-up kill after.
And that's what Carleton needs to do, is just continue to put their foot on the pedal. Even though they lost the Gold Fury and they've gotten the tier 1 tower, they're able to secure these objectives, especially with line time on this Isis with that circle protection. Going back to the good old days of Hand of the God is basically what it does. It's an objective secure for Fire Giant, Pyromancer, and Gold Fury. So being able to use that as what they have been doing is what's going to keep them in this game. But if you take a look right now, Carleton are just over 600 gold now, so this is Georgia State farming right back into this game.
500 gold is all that separates these two teams, and despite all the advantages that Carleton have gotten kill-wise and in these fights, Avant takes quite a hefty bit of poke after that Spirit Ball, starting to chunk its way through this squishy circuit. The Georgia State team responds to make sure they get their jungler out. I believe the purification beads burned out of the circuit just to get out of that fight. But all ultimates still online for these teams. So we do see that the purification was expended from Avant.
Yeah, and the purification beats were expended from David as well, specifically because of the whoop that happened with Freya. Freya was just able to do so much damage with just hitting 2 autos onto David. That's what the damage is right now on him, was 2 autos from Freya. With that Hastened Ring online, now it's probably going to be leaning more towards that Demonic Ring because of the Hastened Ring. That attack speed's starting to get pretty scary, and Freya at level 17 at 18 minutes in the game is starting to look a little dicey. Now the World Serpent's going to go ahead and be used as Dong is going to go ahead and go in, but Ducktick is going to go ahead and get the first kill onto Strongest Ward in this team fight.
But into the back goes Dawn on the Jormungandr. He's going to get 2 with the knockup, but immediately received back to his team as through the Cosmos comes through. Not going to find a home, not going to dive under that tower. The pin is going to be good, but it won't stop Lime Time thanks to the root and knockback immunity out of that Wingust. Lime Time will live to see another day, only taking the damage of it. Basically starting to fall a little bit behind on farm. 2 levels down, has kind of been consistently down compared to Tornby in this game.
Yeah, and just the level differences specifically with how Georgia State is able to farm efficiently, but with basically dying 4 times and only being part of the 5 of the 6 kills and not being able to farm as efficiently as he needs to, that's what's been keeping him behind. But Tornby has 3 kills on his name, so there's 1 level right there easily. The other one is the 7 assists that he has, and that's the 2nd level easily right there as well.
Dawn teleporting over. He wants to get a big fight going on this left-hand side. Digtux will be able to get away from the knockup out of the Snake. The Snake will wiggle his way away from the Spirit Ball out of the mid lane Isis Lime Time, keeping himself relevant in this game. Quite a bit of damage he's been able to put out, and a lot of CC, a lot of chain setups here, but the fight goes through. David's all the way in the back. He's going to dash away. Strongest War God up on the dive bomb, falling Avant. And Tornby caught in the middle of 3, but a watery grave out of picture. I will make sure to get their Athena out. Circle protection has been used. It's been popped through already, but Lime Time is so low in health. Avant trying to find it, but dunking down is the World Serpent, and Dawn will pick up Lime Time. Victorion and Tornby both so low. Strongest War God grabs 1. Double kill for the Dawn on the Snake. And David maybe numbers 3 as Zuo grabs the last hit of it. Only Dig left alive, but not for much longer as he's getting slowly whittled away by the Serpent and by basically triple kill for Dawn.
Dawn is coming back with a vengeance from Game 3, and now he's controlling the game in Game 4. He now has a 3-level difference while even dying 3 times before 10 minutes in this game, showing exactly what a solo laner needs to do. Just continue to farm and continue to be in these fights. And now that gold difference that was 500 is now almost 3,000, going to be about 3,600 after they get this tower, as Gold Fury is going to be spawning soon, and that's the only Fury that they're going to get. And that's going to be really massive for Georgia State. What a swing for them.
Huge swing on the side of Georgia State, picking up all 5 players, a tower and an Oni. Means that not only was it 500 in favor of Carleton, that extra 500 has swung opposite ways. So while it's a 5,300 gold lead, they swung nearly 6,000 gold in favor of Carleton. Getting a little antsy here with this Fire Giant. No one on the side of Georgia State has come to the side of the map yet. Nobody recognizes this is happening. They have Lime Time with the Isis, but it just doesn't feel like they have the damage. The Hunter isn't here, and they're just slowly taking this Fire Giant away. No one's made the rotation yet. War God, the closest one alongside Dawn. The Frenzy has been popped. The flurry through. Circle of protection, drop down, and finally the Fire Giant will fall. But it took them so long. Dawn is still here. Maybe a bit of potential cleanup after, but everyone on Carleton will get out.
And everyone in Carleton got out because everybody was in that circle of protection heal from the Fire Giant, able to secure the Fire Giant and make sure that they were able to get some health back up in case a fight broke out. It's exactly what Lime Time needed to do, and that's exactly what Carleton needed to do. They realized that the Oni Fury had fallen, so they needed to get an objective. Instead of going for the Pyromancer, which would have been a little bit of a safer call, they decided to go for the Fire Giant to make sure that the level difference that they have right now isn't going to be as potent as it is currently.
Not a fan of that one, Fixtron. He goes in with the Defender of Olympus, bringing 2 players into the middle of 5. Dawn taking up the tower a little too much. He's going to go up into the World Serpent and try and get a little bit of extra damage on a Fixtron. He has knocked him up consistently, putting out the CC and the poke onto it. David rotates in, but a big Spirit Ball plus the last auto from Digtux will be enough to drop down the support. Dawn still trying to put some poke in through the wall on the Serpent, but with all 5 on Carleton here versus only 4 and a very low 3 on it. Zuogod not looking too healthy himself. He's going to be jumped in, but Avant going to jump right on top of Lime Time and drop them out. The poison is spread to Tornby. The knockup is good from Dawn. Wargod jumps back down in place, and Fixtron will pick him up. Tornby getting very low. Avant able to grab him, but the Dawn will fall in return.
As Digtux is still going to go ahead and try to get some odds, as David's going to go ahead and get Zuogod in the back, as Cirquette on Avant-Gate is the only one left alive right now. The minions are going to try to do it. A couple of archers will do it, but look at Fixtron. He's going to try to wrap around, but he is going to go ahead and elect to back. Look at this, the jungler and Digtux right now are going to be able to look for at least getting this tier 2 tower, and that literally was because of the Fire Giant right there, as the blink pin is going to come out from basically doing a little bit of damage to Digtug, but because of the Fire Giant and the lifesteal, they're not going to do too much, as basically is now level 14 and is caught up to, Tornbeat and then Athena, but is still showing a little bit of life left into him. Georgia State trying to defend as much as possible in these fights.
David's been a huge playmaker for this team in this game on the Ratatoskr. These Through the Cosmos have been so potent in these team fights, always hitting a couple of players with them, or at least hitting the one crucial player that they need. 5, 1, and 7 you can see on it. And going for more of a hybrid bruiser option here. They got the Gladiator Shield for a little bit of defense and the cooldown reduction, but also the Brawler's Beat Stick to reduce the healing that's coming out. While it's not a lot of healing, they have the Erlong Shen ult and then the natural plus the Bancroft's Talon lifesteal out of Zuogod's Freya, trying to keep them on par. But with the third ring looking to come out of Zoogod, most likely a Telkind's ring, this Freya starting to hit dangerous territory.
Yeah, and now all that's left is that Obsidian Shard. If she sells that Hunter's Blessing for the Obsidian Shard after getting the Telekind's ring, it is almost all over but the crying for Carleton. But that was a huge full-distance Spirit Ball from Lime Time onto Strongest Workout. The two-man taunt's gonna come out from Tina as the Water Grave's gonna go ahead and be used as the World Serpent will also fall. Lime Time gonna go ahead and drop the Ice Missile to give him all that health back. The Aegis is gonna go ahead and come down, but look through the Cosmos in the back. Victorion's gonna go ahead and drop Strongest World. Dong is gonna go ahead and get Lime Time.
Still continuing forward. Digtuck's Victory and David trying to drop down basically. Dawn and Zuo still left under the tower. He will get shoved into it by the turtle himself. The turtle's going to get pinned into the tower. The Bellowing Roar is good, but it's not good enough to drop it down. The basics out of Dawn continue to try and get the poke through. The Frenzy was popped through, but it's not quite enough. The Cobra's Kiss is going to make sure to spread the last breath poison out. David not going to get that healing through. Torby taking a good amount of poke from the Bellowing Roar. Dawn coming in big in this fight to keep turning this one around. Blinging from David. It's not enough damage. He has the dart to get out, but Avant has the chase as well as the beads out of the flip from basically the beads from David too early, and the death out of it. Dawn cleaning it up for the deicide for Georgia State.
And Georgia State showing again the team fight prowess that they have. If you take a look at the replay right there, what was happening is that David was able to get into the back, but look at who was in the front. All of the tanks were in the front, including Zero God being able to do massive amounts of damage. Then the Circuit was able to actually get out of the fight and come back in to be able to do so much damage to Carleton. That's what efficiently got them the deicide, but what ended up getting the deicide was the unfortunate blink into the spin to win from the Ratatasker, not being able to do the damage that he wanted, and then of course the late beads into the pin, into his ultimate demise.
Yeah, the beads used very early there, expecting the immediate blink, but great play out of basically making sure that he didn't immediately use that pin and was able to set up for the rest of that one to drop the Ratatasker. A bit of a bait. A mind game is always the thing with gods like Athena and Erlong. When you hear a blink, you're like, oh god, here comes the taunt, or here comes the pin. I gotta get out of this one now. And then they don't do it, and you're like, oh no. That's not what I was expecting at all. This is a bad day now.
This became a very, very no good, very bad day is what happens when you see that. But what's even more interesting is the fact that Georgia State now has an AK gold lead. They were down, maybe a K or two here or there, nothing too crazy. But the fact that they were able to stick to farming and farming efficiently is what's going to be able to win them this game, because they were down at 1.5 kills to 1. And that's just a testament to Georgia State's team fighting and their farming capabilities.
Like how Digtux is the one doing the majority of the damage to this Pyromancer from a distance, making sure to keep getting the poke. Spirit Ball, just a little bit off the mark, a little short of hitting its target. Is Dawn taking a little bit of poke here. The Nene Kappa thrown against basically for a little bit of poke. Spirit Ball this time will find a home, hitting for a little over 350. Pretty big onto this solo lane, this big frontliner.
Yeah, and the Spirit Ball is really going to set up these potential team fight. If they can Spirit Ball, the Jormungandr, or if they can Spirit Ball, the Circuit, that's just going to be a massive fight. As it does look like a fight's beginning, as the World Serpent is going to go ahead and be used right now to try to get into the back line. But Dong's going to be able to back off as Lime Time is going to get hit up by that last hit by Dong, as the Frenzy's going to go ahead and get popped. Mounted Archery is going to go ahead and be used, but the poison's on him as Duo God's going to get it with the Freya ultimate, as Athena, Defender of Olympus will come out onto Duo God. Duo God's going to go ahead and taunt it, but David in the backline is going to be able to pick up, as Duo God is just casually 2v1 and getting Lime Time, and look at his Bancroft health is going to be able to keep him alive.
Not only that, it's going to give him even more power to go into this. The big whoop into the pulse is doing a lot of damage. The shell reflect damage is not going to stay on forever. Zuo going to get a good Aegis, but it's not going to be long enough for him, as Torby able to drop him down. Only Dawn and basically are left to fight against 3, and Dawn's going to slip by all 3 of them. I don't know if David noticed it or not, but with basically the only one left alive, level 18 here. A good pin is going to save his life for a little bit, but taunt through, the push into the wall, and the dart out of David will net a 4-for-2 trade out for Carleton.
Carleton still having a little bit of life left in them. All they need is just a good team fight like that again and possibly wiping out Georgia State completely, and they could possibly end this game, eventually making it going into game 5. We'll see what happens, but it seems like the Carleton have been playing a little bit more, I guess, reactionary than actionary, and Georgia State have been playing so aggressive action with more action that's what's causing them to get out of these positions in these team fights, especially Zurogod in that last one. He was able to 2v1 and get 2 kills, a double kill off of it, but to what cost? Their damage was gone, and then he had no beads, no ultimate, no Aegis. No beads. He had the Aegis available, but there was no need to use it because he was almost dead at that point. So it's just the unfortunate that Zurogod got out of position, and I think that's what's causing this kind of delay right there, as Carleton's going to get the Pyromancer just barely, because I thought Zuro was going to steal that with the spit.
I thought Don was going to grab that one too there. I thought the timing on that one was perfect, just a little bit shy of it. The Pyromancer will go their way. The Enhanced Fire Giant now on the table for whoever wants to try and face off against his mighty Wrath. As Carleton Ravens bring this game back, only about 5,000 gold now separate them, but Lime Time, Circle Protection's only going to do so much for you. The pin's going to be good. A big ult does come out, he's able to wait it, but Duogod turns this one around. Needs a big the Cosmos from this Wrath, but he's going to back away, not electing to use it offensively, and now Dictuck is forced to use that ultimate to get himself out. Mounted Archery defensively, through the Cosmos defensively. This is the reactionary play that they have been making all game, but this time it's on retreat as opposed to the re-engaging. Blink out of David will mean that they can continue their push into the mid lane.
And the horrific emblem was being used right there for basically after the blink taunt. So now he has no relics available for this, as the amount of damage. But the Thorn's looking like doing so much damage right there. As the Willis on the Bellow, not going to be able to secure it. But Digtux will get one. David's going to get the other one. Digtux is still around. He's got the Odysseus bow procs to be able to keep him around a little bit. But look at the damage from the autos from Strongest War God. Crazy amounts of damage from the Hui autos, just specifically because of that Mark of the Crow.
Too greedy trying to chase down that Kuzumbo. The Thorns were expended as well as his shell spikes, but it just wasn't enough damage and a little too scared of the damage returning back. David on the tree, looking for a target, jumps over it. He's going to be Strongest War God, taunted into the pin, and now David's going to be hit with the last press point, but the Water Grave is doing so much damage to him, and Torby cleans up one alongside his carry. David standing tall and strong as he knows that that initiation was a big one for the boys on Carleton.
And now the Fire Giant is up. Who else is up? Lime Time is up. He's trying to solo basically right now, but if he's able to pull back right now and probably get a good zone off of basically, this could be an easy Fire Giant pull and possibly even a secure, but Lime Time's just going to get knocked up and get a lot of damage done to him from this Fire Giant.
Mixtron's here to try and play zoning 2. They got 4 versus the 1. Basically, the only player left through here, but he's going to be zoned away using that Mink, but he's still trying to make a return. Mixtron not going to let him directly through the Spear Ball on top. The Lime Time's taking so much damage. He took a little bit too much damage. Carleton's going to get the Fire Giant, and basically a great attempt will fall after, but Lime Time dying there huge for Georgia State, making sure they keep at least one of the carries without a buff.
And what's interesting is that Lime Time was trying to figure out who was tanking it, because I think what happened was Kuzumbo was tanking it at first, and then he left. And then Athena, then it went on to Isis, and then she tried to back out, and then Isis went, or excuse me, the Athena went in, threw an auto, but it went to Digtux. Then Digtux backed out and went back to Isis. So that was just an unfortunate way of tanking, and because of that early knockup, that's the damage that did it. So it was just really unfortunate communication from Carleton that Lime Time now wasn't able to use his ultimate to heal himself, let alone try to secure the buff a little bit faster. And now Carleton still has to play a little bit on the defensive, even with this Enhanced Fire Giant.
Lime Time still hasn't hit that level 20, and Circle of Protection is a big ultimate to have at that max rank. Need to get Lime Time up to that final level, make sure he can get the maximum efficiency out of his ultimate. On the flip side, Strongest War God, level 20, full build as well. Lime Time still an item behind. Only player on his team who hasn't hit level 20. While on the flip side, it's basically who's only level 19, but at 1717, still being at that level 19. Impressive for him considering the deficit that he started with in this game.
Absolutely. And what's really crazy is the fact that the Isis is still, like you were saying, was still level 19. With that level 19, that means the Athena support is more farm than the Isis mid lane. And so is it Isis support now, I guess? Is that what they're going to be running right now? Is Tornby's going to go ahead and tank this tier 2 tower with Dig Tux easily falling. Because it does look like aggression's going to try to come out for Carleton, but if Carleton play this wrong, this could very well end up being the game. But with the way that Carleton have been playing this, they just have to extend the team fight, play the reactionary way they've been playing, and they could easily get a deicide and possibly end this game for Georgia State, as a Blink Taunt's going to go ahead and come in through the Cosmos, as well as World Step are going to be used.
Be taking a lot of poke under that. Phoenix is going to be thrown back into the Suns. And that last breath poison is going to spread to Fixtrion and David, putting a lot of extra poke. David into the back, or Dawn as well, putting as much damage as he can. A double whoop out of Zuo is huge. He's running shot through them, picking up 2 big kills for the team. Only David and Fixtrion live through. They're able to grab Avant. The Kappa thrown as a means to try and slow down, basically, but neither of them can just back. They have to run all the way back to base, and Fixtrion is going to get stopped with the pin by basically, potentially, could be the death of Kuzumo, but he does still have his dash thanks to Shell Spike. Getting back out, turning around, they're going to Kappa pin into the gas. Going to do a lot of damage, knock up on top, but pushing basically into the Phoenix.
The 72 transformations just trying to stop Fixtrion from being able to back, but now the shell is going to be able to be used.
Oh no.
Freya at level 20, 35 minutes in the game, folks. That's what we've been talking about all game. We finally seeing how much damage she did. 3 autos going from half health to no health.
It's only David left. He's going to go on to Strongest War God. Forces out the Aegis and the taunt in from the Urlong. David going up for one more chance, but War God jumps on over it. The Titan to 10%. The Titan is too low, and Carleton will be sent packing, and Georgia State move to the finals.
Georgia State showing how efficient their play is. They were farming efficiently. They were playing efficiently. They were playing very aggressively into these fights, and that's what's caused them to keep that lead going. Even when they didn't have a lead, they still had a 400, 500 gold deficit, which means there was no lead for any team. So showing the efficient farming from Georgia State, I'm trembling in my boots if I'm going to face them in the finals.
It was the ticking time bomb of the Freya. We saw it in the very last fight. The double whoop is what ended up saving that game for Georgia State. If Zuogod didn't get the 2-man whoop on the Freya, might not have been able to catch those 2 carries and drop them as easily as they did. And then we saw what it did. It doesn't matter how many defensive items you build on a tank at that stage of the game. When Freya is 6 slotted, Freya swings. 31,000 damage, almost 32 in this carry.
And look at how the kill participation too. Freya literally was a part of 17 of the kills out of the 23, 25 that were actually in that game. That is a lot of gold for Freya. Look at the farming efficiently, gold per minute on everybody on Georgia, but specifically Freya. 570 in that dual lane versus the counterpart, Dig Tux, only getting 529 gold per minute. That just shows you the efficiency of this Freya. So when that Freya starts snowballing, the snowball is hard.
And while they both put up similar damage, a lot of Zuos came in that late game fight, that very last scuffle there. Another big thing pointed out by our lovely observer, another 17 wards placed out by basically. If there's one thing this man does right over anything else, it's he wards. So taking a lesson out there, all you support players, and really just all you players in general, ward in your stinking games, because basically is coming out here with the big numbers on these wards. Every single game. He had 31 in one game?
31 was last game because of how long that game went. And now he's got 17. So I think altogether we have seen basically Ward over 100 times in 4 games. I'm safe to say that you can actually probably calculate that the best way, but I think it was 100 times total in all 4 games. Wards win games, and Georgia State and basically showing it how it's done.
Big plays from Georgia State. They will move on to the grand finals as they await their opposition on the other side of the semifinal bracket. But unfortunately for us, that's going to do it. That's all the time that we have for you guys tonight here for the AVGL Collegiate Smite Championship. Semifinal round 1 is in the bag. And now we just wait for their opposition on the bottom side to meet them, wait them for another best of 5 match for the grand finals. 200,000 gems, Fuzzy, is on the line for these top 8 teams to pay out to. 200,000 gems. That's a ton of gems.
That's a lot of gems, a lot of battle passes, a lot of skins, a lot of fun times for all, including, if they stream, giving it out possibly in streams and everything like that. But lots of gems are up on the line, and I love gyms because I like skins, I like voice packs, I like dances. I'm still waiting for the Apollo dance emote high res. I'm still waiting for that because Apollo is my guy. But just so many gyms, and the teams that's gonna win this all is gonna just show and prove to everybody why they deserve that win. If it's Georgia, great. They have shown that they are a titan to deal with, and I'm scared for their opposition when they come into play.
It's going to be a hell of a grand finals coming out for whoever they end up facing up, coming up from the other side of the bracket. But like I said, that's all from us tonight. I've been J Mac Tucker, with me Fuzzy Wuzzy. You can find us both on our social medias posted right there. And you can also follow our observer, Jithins, at SP Jithins on Twitter. And make sure that you also follow the AVGL_Smite Twitter. The way you can know when these games are going out live. We should be coming back sometime soon, but no guarantees just yet. Remember, Thanksgiving is this week, so go out and spend some time with your family. I know that's a weird thing to say, but go out and spend time with people in your family. That shows some love and support for them. And we will see you all next time. Thank you all for coming out, and good night.